Chapter 86. The Gu family is finished. The person who came out was Qingyuan, Liangzi's mother. Yesterday morning, they had lost 5 taels of silver. Hu Liang was even beaten up until he was covered in injuries. Just thinking about it made him feel aggrieved and indignant. This was especially true for Qingyuan. She had always doted on her youngest son the most, like a treasure. Even if he usually stole things, she would spit back when the villagers came to ask for an explanation. Not only would others not receive compensation, but they would also be scolded badly by her. Because of this, Qingyuan became even more complacent. The more she fought, the more invincible she became. However, she did not expect to suffer a huge setback at the hands of a young lady yesterday. She could not beat her verbally or physically, and she even lost so much silver. The more she thought about it, the more her heart burned, and the more she couldn't fall asleep. But she did not dare to look for Gu Yundong. After pondering for a while, she thought of Madame Yang. Madame Yang was a fool. Even if she was bullied, she might not complain. She could even get Madame Yang to compensate her with the 5 taels of silver. Yes, her thoughts were exactly the same as Madame Fang's back then. Hence, she came over early in the morning. She hid behind the haystack and did not dare to move, waiting for Madame Yang to come out alone. Unexpectedly, Madame Yang did not appear. Instead, she waited for Feng Danning to come over and heard such explosive and exciting news. The Peng family, that was the Peng family. Gu Yundong had offended the Peng family. She had not only kept her tail between her legs, but had rushed to find trouble. She was definitely dead now. Qingyuan was so excited that her face turned red. She couldn't care less about Madame Yang anymore. As she walked back, she told everyone that the Gu family was going to suffer. You don't know, but Gu Yundong is really bold. She actually said that the Peng family stole her things and is now going to settle scores with the Peng family. Do you think she's crazy? What kind of family is the Peng family? They're so big and powerful. Do they care about her things? Just you wait. The Gu family is finished. So what if she knows the county magistrate? One don't think the county magistrate knows her well. Otherwise, why would the Gu family settle in Yongfu village? If the county magistrate really had a good relationship with her family, he should have sent her family to the city or the rich Dagui village around the county. Qingyuan was not experienced enough to know that settling down was not so easy. Now that the new emperor was in power, he valued refugees very much. Not to mention the county magistrate, even if the magistrate's relatives wanted to settle down, they had to follow the rules at this juncture. However, Qingyuan's words still caused a commotion in the village. Everyone gathered together and whispered to each other. They found it unbelievable that Gu Yundong would dare to go to the Peng family to cause trouble. The Gu family is probably really done for this time. That house won't be built either. What a pity. One heard that it's built beautifully. I still want to take a look after the beam is up. There were also people who made sarcastic remarks. Serves her right. Look at how arrogant she was yesterday. She's so shrewish and vicious at such a young age. She's already difficult to marry. Now that she's offended the Peng family, who would dare to interact with them? When Qingyuan heard this, she was very pleased. She ran around the entire village before returning home and telling her son the news in high spirits. Hu Liang's face was still bruised and swollen. When he heard this, his eyes lit up. He was originally lying on the bed listlessly, but he instantly jumped up, put on his clothes, and rushed out the door. Qingyuan hurriedly called out to him, "Where are you going?" I'm going to take revenge." Chapter 87. Shao Qingyuan rushes to the county city. Hu Liang went to look for his scoundrel friends, but he did not go to Zhuangzi's house in the same village. Instead, he went to Gaoxing's house in the neighboring village. Gaoxing was also recuperating at home. Although his face was not swollen, he had been beaten up by Shao Qingyuan a few times the day before. It was very painful. When Hu Liang came over, he was sitting in the courtyard, looking at the sky in confusion. "Gaoxing, follow me." One didn't expect our chance to take revenge to come so quickly. What revenge? That wretched girl from the Gu family has offended the Peng family. The Peng family doesn't allow her to build a house. They said that they want to destroy it. If we go and destroy it now, we can even go to the Peng family to take credit and get some money. He repeated what Qingyuan had heard. Gousheng was stunned for a moment before Hu Liang pulled him up from the stool. Hurry up, let's call Big Qian. The three of us will go together. Big Qian is not at home. He went to find work, Gousheng said. He and his grandmother were the only ones in Big Qian's family. They relied on each other. His grandmother was old, so he could only think of a way to pay Gu Yundong the 5 taels of silver. Hu Liang frowned. Then let's go together. Gousheng was a little confused. Why don't you look for Zhuangzi? Bah, don't mention that bastard to me. It's fine if he didn't help me yesterday, but he actually advised me not to find trouble with that brat. What's the difference between him and his cowardly parents? One won't bring him around in the future. Let's go, let's hurry. Just as Hu Liang was about to pull him away, Gousheng's father, Zhou, returned. He looked very burly, and Hu Liang was actually a little afraid of him. Zhou looked at Gousheng. Where are you going now? You're recuperating at home. Hu Liang pursed his lips. He was disdainful in his heart. What's the point of putting on airs as a father? Gousheng won't listen to you. However, just as he thought this, Gousheng lowered his head and agreed. Got it, father. I'm not going out. Hu Liang's eyes widened in disbelief. Gousheng was also possessed? Gousheng's hatred with his father was as deep as the sea. Back then, Gousheng's mother was gone, and his father had married a stepmother. It was easy for a stepmother to cripple a child who was only a few years old. However, Zhou was not good with words. He adhered to the principle of filial piety. It was fine if the two of them did not communicate. The stepmother even sowed discord, making Gousheng think that her biological mother had been killed by his father. By the time Zhou found out about this, the relationship between father and son could no longer be eased. Therefore, even if that stepmother was divorced, Gousheng still treated his father as an enemy and did not return home often. Today, when his father ordered him with a straight face, he actually did not go against his father. Not only that, but he also advised Hu Liang, these are just rumors. It's fine if you just listen to them. That little girl from the Gu family is amazing. You shouldn't get involved. Hu Liang flung his hand away angrily. You're also a coward. Alright, if you don't want to go, 111 go. He shook his head and left. He returned to the village and went to Gu Yundong's homestead. However, when he saw that there were so many laborers working at the homestead, he immediately cowered. After walking around the homestead, Hu Liang did not find a chance to attack. Suddenly, he had a flash of inspiration. Yes, he could look for young Master Peng. He happened to know a servant of the Peng family. When the time came, he would tell young Master Peng that not only did Gu Yundong not stop building the house, but she also threatened to teach the Peng family a lesson. She even said that she had the county magistrate as her backer. He was the best at adding fuel to the fire. He guaranteed that young Master Peng would kill Gu Yundong in a fit of anger. He couldn't do it, but he could use someone else to do it. Perhaps young Master Peng would reward him with a few taels of silver when he was happy. It was killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Thinking of this, Hu Liang became excited. He turned around and walked towards the village entrance. However, just as he reached the entrance of the village, they suddenly saw a person in front of them rushing towards the county. Wasn't that a wolf cub? Chapter 88, Do you remember me? Hu Liang was a little afraid of Shao Qingyuan. It should be said that in the entire Yongfu village, there was no youth their age who was not afraid of him. Therefore, he immediately stopped and ran to hide behind a big tree at the entrance of the village. He was anxious, but he still had to wait for this guy to pass first. Fortunately, Shao Qingyuan walked quickly and disappeared in a short while. Hu Liang heaved a sigh of relief and rushed to the county city. However, there was Shao Qingyuan in front of him. He did not walk as fast as before. Shao Qingyuan did not notice him. He was also anxious. This morning, he woke up and went straight into the mountains. In order to confirm what he had said last night, he specially went to catch 2 pheasants. One was for the Gu family, and the other was for food. He asked Gu Yundong to help make a good meal. Unexpectedly, when he went down the mountain, he heard everyone in the village discussing the girl and the Peng family. He couldn't hear clearly, so he rushed home. When he ran next door, he saw Gu Yunshu comforting Madame Dong, who was running around in circles, not knowing what to do. Gu Yundong had a mysterious confidence in Gu Yundong. If his eldest sister said that nothing would happen, he would believe her. Then, he would obediently guard his mother and younger sister. On the other hand, when Feng Danning came to look for Gu Yundong, she was standing not far behind. The cause and effect could not be clearer. When she saw Shao Qingyuan coming over, he did not care that Shao Qingyuan and Gu Yundong were not familiar with each other. She subconsciously asked for his opinion. Only then did Shao Qingyuan know what had happened. He handed the 2 pheasants to Madame Dong and left in a hurry. Now, his mind was racing. He was thinking about how he could get back what belonged to Gu Yundong at the smallest price and teach Peng Zhongfei a lesson. He had never thought of letting Gu Yundong bear with this matter. Shao Qingyuan was not such a person. Therefore, he did not notice that Hu Liang was hiding behind the tree behind him. Shao Qingyuan walked faster and faster. In the end, he ran. However, after running for a short distance, a carriage came. Shao Qingyuan looked straight ahead and walked past it. However, the curtain of the carriage was lifted, and a lazy head popped out. The moment he saw Shao Qingyuan, the head immediately perked up. He hurriedly said to the coachman in front, "Stop, stop, stop." "Hey!" The carriage stopped dangerously. The person in the carriage poked half of his head out and called out to him, Hey, wait a minute. It's me. Do you remember me?" Shao Qingyuan turned a deaf ear. The person in the carriage quickly instructed the driver, "Turn around and chase after him." The carriage made a turn and ran quickly. Soon, it was parallel to Shao Qingyuan. Shao Qingyuan frowned and looked at him. He looked a little familiar. Oh, it was the young master of the Liu family, Liu Wei. This person had even rebuked Gu Yundong at Madame Fang's door yesterday, saying that it was impossible for the county magistrate to know her. Yes, his brain was flooded with water. There was no need to pay attention to him. Shao Qingyuan turned around and was about to leave. However, just as he lifted his foot, his eyes narrowed. His carriage, Liu Wei leaned out even more. If not for the servant holding him in the carriage, he would have fallen out. "Your name is Shao Qingyuan, right? Do you still remember me? One specially came to Yongfu village to look for you." Shao Qingyuan suddenly turned around and jumped into the carriage. Liu Wei was stunned for a moment before he smiled. "That's right. It's easier to talk when you're in the carriage. I was so tired just now." Chapter 89, Bring me Shao Qingyuan said to the coachman, "To the county city." "Why are you going to the county city?" "To your Yongfu village. I came to look for you because I wanted you to bring me into the mountains to hunt. I'll give you 100 taels of silver. How about you bring me to hunt a roe deer?" Liu Wei was in high spirits and wanted to ask the coachman to turn around. However, Shao Qingyuan looked at him steadily and repeated, "To the county city." He had to listen to him if he had a favor to ask. Otherwise, he would kick him down and snatch the carriage. Liu Wei shivered under his gaze and laughed dryly. "I'll listen to you. One can see that you have something urgent to do in the county city. I'm a helpful person, so I'll send you there. But let's agree that when you're done, you'll bring me to hunt roe deer. I came to your village yesterday. I wanted to look for you, but I had something to do and returned home." Liu Wei knew Shao Qingyuan because he had bought Shao Qingyuan's wild boar last time. This person was generous and gave him 50 taels of silver. The wild boar was a big fellow. At that time, Lu Wei admired Qingyuan very much. However, after he received the silver, he left when he was not paying attention. He did not even have the time to ask for the guy's address and name. This time, he wanted to catch a roe deer and give it to someone. It was very useful. At that time, he immediately thought of Qingyuan, but there was no way to contact him. Just as he was wondering if he should get another hunter to bring him into the mountain, he bumped into Qingyuan. Madame Fang and Qingyuan went to her nephew's wedding banquet. His nephew's wife happened to be Lu Wei's mother's second-class maidservant. She had been released when she was old and had taken a fancy to the nephew. The day after the maidservant got married, she came to the Lu family to kowtow to his mother. It could be considered a closure for the master and servant relationship. Perhaps it was also to tell the Fang family that she had been doted on and had a backer in the main family. She was not a daughter-in-law who could be bullied casually. At that time, Qingyuan wanted to come along and say that she wanted to see the world. She kept praising her. Coupled with the encouragement of the elders at the side, the maidservant had no choice but to bring Qingyuan to the Lu family. Lu Wei was talking to his mother at that time and happened to be talking about the wild boar he had bought 2 days ago. Qingyuan heard that it was a wild boar. She remembered that before she went to her grandmother's house with her mother, she heard that the wolf cub in the village had caught a wild boar and was sending it to the county city for selling. Unfortunately, she and her mother were in a hurry and did not have the time to look. Now that he heard Lu Wei's words, wasn't Qingyuan the one who matched the time, appearance, and age? Qingyuan was extremely excited at that time. She found an opportunity to tell Lu Wei shyly that the hunter was from her village. When Lu Wei heard this, he immediately asked her to lead the way to her village to find Qingyuan. That was why Gu Yundong had seen Lu Wei and Madame Fang standing together. However, just after Lu Wei arrived at Yongfu village and watched a show yesterday, before he could find Qingyuan, a servant came looking for him. He said that there was an urgent matter at home and asked him to hurry back. Lu Wei could only regretfully say that he would come another day. Unexpectedly, he met Qingyuan on the way. That was great. This way, he would have a roe deer. Lu Wei felt that Qingyuan was capable. He knew that Qingyuan had sold more than one wild boar. When Lu Wei thought about this, he felt quite happy. Even the heavens were helping him. He confirmed again, when you're done with the matters in the county, you can bring me into the mountains, right? I have to go personally. You will bring me, right? Qingyuan frowned. This person was too annoying. However, he suddenly thought of something. He turned his head and asked him, "Do you know Peng Zhongfei?" Chapter 90, Poison My Lisu. Lu Wei was stunned. Peng Zhongfei? Of course he knew him. He patted Qingyuan's shoulder and laughed. Yes, we know each other. We even drank together 2 days ago. They had even visited a brothel after that, but he could not say that. All right, bring me into the Peng house. The smile on Lu Wei's face instantly froze. He removed his hand from his shoulder and asked dryly, "You went to the county city just for the Peng family? Do you have a feud with that Peng Zhongfei?" No. Lu Wei heaved a sigh of relief. Then why are you going to the Peng family? If you bring me in, not only will I bring you into the mountains to hunt roe deer, but I'll also bring a tiger, Qingyuan said. He paused for a moment and added, "Don't worry, I won't kill anyone or set fire. I won't implicate you." Lu Wei's eyes lit up when he heard about the tiger. He was very tempted. Besides, his relationship with Peng Zhongfei was only average. Everyone had bad friends. Moreover, he was only bringing this guy in. If something really happened, he could just deny it. The Peng family really didn't dare to do anything to him. The Lu family was just keeping a low profile. It wasn't like they didn't have a backer. The commoners didn't know, but how could he not know? The Peng family's official in the capital was only a 5th-grade official. In the capital, he had to tuck his tail between his legs. Moreover, with the roe deer and the tiger, he might have another backer after giving them away. Lu Wei thought for a while and nodded. Okay. His servant quickly pulled him. Young master, if something happens later, do you want to be beaten to death by the old master? The old master said not to cause trouble during this period of time. Lu Wei glared at him and looked at Shao Qingyuan with a smile. Then it's settled. You have to bring me along when you beat the tiger. The servant's face turned pale. Young master, you've been a little arrogant recently. Shao Qingyuan only nodded. He did not say anything else. In any case, he would let this guy stay on the tree when they entered the mountain, so that he wouldn't get in the way. Lu Wei happily instructed the coachman to speed up. He saw that Shao Qingyuan seemed to be in a hurry. Shao Qingyuan did not speak along the way. He ignored Lu Wei's desire to talk and lifted the curtain to look at the road ahead. He had thought that Gu Yundong and Feng Danning were slow because they were walking, and that he would be able to catch up in the carriage. Unexpectedly, they did not see the two of them even when they reached the entrance of the county. Shao Qingyuan frowned. Could it be that they had already gone to the Peng family? He quickly asked Lu Wei to bring him in. Gu Yundong did not go to the Peng family. Since Shao Qingyuan could find a carriage, she would not let herself suffer. On the way, she encountered a mule cart. After saying a few words, she got someone to take them all the way to the county, the Chang family. Feng Danning knocked on the door. Chang Fu's wife, Madame Wang, opened the door. When she saw them, she immediately wanted to close the door, but Gu Yundong pushed it open. Madame Wang was about to shout when Gu Yundong sneered and raised his voice. Where's that thief Chang Fu? Madame Wang felt guilty and subconsciously rushed out to take a look. As expected, she saw someone sticking his head out from next door. She immediately closed the door without a word and came back to her senses. Who are you? Why are you shouting at my house? Gu Yundong ignored her and went straight in. She saw Chang Fu happily drinking wine and eating some side dishes. Yesterday, young Master Peng had rewarded him with 20 taels of silver. Gu Yundong pulled her up. Chang Fu frowned and glared at her. What are you doing? Where did this wild girl come from? Before he could finish speaking, Gu Yundong threw something into his mouth and closed it forcefully. Swallow it. Chang Fu swallowed it and widened his eyes. What did you feed me? My Lisu. Chapter 91, Drag into the room, what? What's my Lisu? Chang Fu had a very bad feeling. It was just a kind of snack. Gu Yundong smiled slightly. Oh, it's a kind of poison. If you don't take the antidote in about 4 hours, your entire body will spasm. Your face will twitch, your eyes will be crooked, your mouth will be slanted, and all your hair will fall off. Then, you will die laughing. When Madame Wang heard this, her face immediately turned pale. She pounced on her and wanted to hit her, but she was stopped by Feng Danning. You be *tch, you're so evil at such a young age. I'll beat you to death and sell you to, Gu Yundong snorted. Continue cursing. If you want Chang Fu to die from poisoning, 111 fulfill your wish. You're lying to me. If you dare to kill someone in broad daylight, you won't be able to escape either. Chang Fu didn't believe it. He had never heard of it. However, he still subconsciously dug his throat and tried his best to spit out the Lisu that he had swallowed. However, he could not spit it out. He immediately flared up at Madame Wang. You stupid woman, why aren't you pouring me water? Madame Wang could not care less. She went to the kitchen and scooped a large ladle of water for Chang Fu to drink. Gu Yundong stood at the side and watched coldly, allowing them to do whatever they wanted. When they could no longer do anything, she looked at the two people with tears in their eyes. If you don't believe me, then wait for 4 hours. I don't care. Oh, right, if you don't believe me, you can go to the doctor to see if you really don't have long to live. Well, go back to the village first. After saying that, she turned around and left. Feng Danning did not understand her goal and quickly followed. Chang Fu quickly shouted, Wait, wait a minute. He covered his throat and staggered to her. He widened his eyes and asked, what exactly do you want? If what she said was true, he would have to spend 4 hours to go to Yongfu village to ask her for the antidote. At that time, he would be dead. Gu Yundong knew that he was suspicious and afraid of death. He immediately raised his eyebrows and said, simple. One want you to take me to the Peng residence to look for Peng Zhongfei. Chang Fu shook his head like a rattle drum. Impossible. If one bring you there, young Master Peng will beat me to death. Then it's not negotiable. Goodbye. Wait, Chang Fu said fiercely. 111 Think about it. Alright, take your time to think about it. You should know that I'm going to the Peng residence to get my things back. In short, I won't give you the antidote before one get them back. You can estimate the time yourself. Chang Fu's expression changed drastically. He could not care less. Let's go now. I'll bring you there immediately. Gu Yundong laughed. She had asked Feng Danning to wait for her here. Feng Danning wanted to follow, but he was rooted to the ground by Gu Yundong's words that he would hold her back. Gu Yundong had asked him to follow her to the county because she wanted him to bring her to the Chang family. Only Chang Fu and Gu Yundong were going to the Peng residence. Chang Fu did not dare to delay at all and found the nearest way to the Peng residence. He had just been there yesterday, and Peng Zhongfei was quite amiable to him. Therefore, when he said that he had something urgent to discuss with young Master Peng today, the gatekeeper did not stop him. However, when they were about to reach the Jinglan manor where Peng Zhongfei lived, the servant at the door stopped them. Eldest young master is discussing something with young Master Liu. Wait here. Chang Fu was burning with anxiety, but he did not dare to act rashly. He could only hope that Lu Wei would come out sooner. Gu Yundong, on the other hand, was calm and composed. She was still in the mood to size up the huge Peng residence. After a while, she excused herself to go to the outhouse. The servant at the door glanced at her and found a passing maidservant to bring her over. Gu Yundong followed behind her and walked slowly. Unexpectedly, a hand suddenly reached out from the side and dragged her into a room. Chapter 92. Going all out. Gu Yundong's expression changed and she moved her elbow backward. It's me. A familiar voice came from behind her, conveniently blocking her elbow. Gu Yundong was slightly stunned. She turned around and saw Shao Qingyuan's expressionless face. She was surprised. Why are you here? Shao Qingyuan saw that she did not realize that she was still in his arms, so he pretended not to know anything. He only lowered his voice and said softly, one came with young Master Liu. Young Master Liu? The one who's chatting with Peng Zhongfei? You know him? I'm not very familiar with him. He's the rich young master who bought our wild boar last time. He's also Lu Wei, who said that he was classmates with the county magistrate's young master yesterday. He wants me to bring him into the mountains for 100 taels of silver. After a pause, Shao Qingyuan continued, I heard that you came to the Peng residence to look for Peng Zhongfei. Young Master Liu happened to be here, so I came to take a look. Gu Yundong blinked. Are you here to help me? Shao Qingyuan was silent for a while. I went into the mountains this morning and caught 2 pheasants. I want to eat salt-baked chicken tonight. Gu Yundong was speechless. You've worked hard enough for food. Shao Qingyuan nodded. I've never eaten it before. It's said to be very delicious. Poor child. Although Gu Yundong was also an orphan, she had eaten good food from kind people when she was young in the orphanage. How do you plan to take back your things? Shao Qingyuan looked at her pitiful gaze and his heart skipped a beat. He had the desire to change his excuse. He was worried that if this continued, it would backfire, so he hurriedly changed the topic. When Gu Yundong heard his question, she suddenly realized that she still had important things to do. Only then did she realize that the two of them were so close. She immediately retreated and said, What else can I do? Of course, I'll beat that Peng Zhongfei up and make him return the thing to me. Shao Qingyuan, Gu Yundong saw that he wanted to say something but did not know where to start. She was amused. Huh, you really believe me? I'm not a fool. Besides, her main goal was not to get the blueprints back. Without these two, she could draw a better one. However, once the house was built, Peng Zhongfei could still find someone to smash it. Hitting someone was a bad idea. Let's be serious. Do me a favor. Not only will I make salt-baked chicken for you tonight, but I'll also cook spicy chicken for you. How about that? Gu Yundong had a seductive look on her face. Shao Qingyuan felt that these words sounded a little familiar. After thinking for a moment, he remembered that he had seduced Lu Wei like this before. How is it? Are you going to help me? Don't worry, it's just a small favor. Gu Yundong used his fingers to create a small distance between them. Shao Qingyuan's voice became exceptionally low. Okay. He would do anything to help. Gu Yundong smiled and lowered her head to tell him his plan. When one go out later and see Peng Zhongfei, you, do this, do this. Do you understand? Okay. Gu Yundong patted his shoulder. Be careful. If there's any danger, retreat immediately. Yeah. See you then. Gu Yundong carefully left the room. After walking for a while, she saw the maidservant who had led her looking for her. Gu Yundong coughed lightly. The maidservant suddenly turned her head and scolded her. What's wrong with you? Who asked you to walk around? Do you know what this place is? Can you bear the responsibility if you offend Madam and Miss? Chapter 93. I'll save your life. You walked too fast and left me behind. Do you think you're in the right? Gu Yundong glanced at her. This servant girl seemed to have a sense of superiority. When she saw that Gu Yundong was wearing ordinary clothes and was not a decent person on the surface, she distanced herself from her in disdain. There was at least a 10-meter gap. You. The maid pointed at her angrily. Sure enough, you came from a poor place. You don't know the rules. Gu Yundong turned around and left. The maidservant was even more furious and ran up hurriedly. Where are you going? Jinglan Manor. She had only come out to understand the structure of the Peng residence and make some small moves. There was no need for that now. This time, she walked quickly, leaving the exasperated maid far behind. When Gu Yundong arrived outside the courtyard, Chang Fu was anxiously waiting for her to return. You're finally here. Young Master Peng asked us to go in. Quick, follow me. He was anxious for Gu Yundong to quickly take back the blueprints and give him the antidote. Young Master Lu has left? Chang Fu shook his head. No. Gu Yundong nodded and followed the servant in front. The Jinglan Manor was a little big. It seemed that this young master of the main branch had quite a status in the Peng family. When Gu Yundong entered, Peng Zhongfei and Lu Wei were commenting on a painting. It seemed like there was nothing important. Were all these young masters so free? Especially since this painting was a portrait of beauty, even though it was very abstract. The servant walked to Peng Zhongfei's side and whispered, Young master, Chang Fu is here. Peng Zhongfei raised his head and seemed a little dissatisfied. He waved at Chang Fu and said, What's the matter? Why are you in such a hurry? Don't you know that one have something to tell young Master Lu? Chang Fu felt bitter. He didn't want to, but this girl surnamed Gu was too ruthless. He could only smile and flatter, Young Master Peng, it's my fault. I'll apologize to you first. Alright, hurry up and say it. Get lost when you're done. Peng Zhongfei waved his hand impatiently, but his gaze towards Chang Fu was filled with warning. It was best not to speak nonsense in front of Lu Wei. It was also Lu Wei who had insisted on letting Chang Fu in just now. Otherwise, he would not have bothered with him. Chang Fu responded obediently and hurriedly took a step back. He said, Young Master Peng, this is Miss Gu. She's looking for you. You, Peng Zhongfei glared at him. This kid actually dared to take the initiative to bring an outsider in to see him. Gu Yundong immediately stepped forward and cupped his hands slightly. He lowered his head and said, "Young Master Peng, the situation is urgent. I asked Chang Fu to bring me here. Where did you come from? Hurry up and get lost. How dare you get close to me? I don't like a woman with no chest or butt." Peng Zhongfei often encountered such things and wanted to send her away without even asking. The corners of Gu Yundong's mouth twitched. "Can you stop feeling so good about yourself? Who has taken a fancy to you? I'm here to save young Master Peng's life." Gu Yundong looked up at him solemnly. Peng Zhongfei was stunned for a moment before looking at her carefully. Although this woman was plain from the beginning to the end and dressed very ordinarily, her face was still good-looking, but she was a little young. Yes, Peng Zhongfei expressed that he still liked people with breasts and buttocks. However, since she was quite beautiful, he would listen to her. "To save my life?" Peng Zhongfei sneered. "You? Why didn't one know that I was going to die?" Chapter 94, Because of the Blueprint. Gu Yundong stepped forward. "Young Master Peng doesn't know me yet, so 111 introduce myself first. My name is Gu Yundong, and am the owner of the 3 drawings that young Master Peng obtained yesterday." Peng Zhongfei's expression suddenly changed and he suddenly sat up straight. "Get out. What 3 blueprints? Those blueprints belong to our Peng family. Not only did you steal them without permission, but you also want to call me a thief. Why? Do you really think I, Peng Zhongfei, am a kind person? Someone, drag her out and break her hand." The servant outside the door immediately ran in and pulled her back. Chang Fu was extremely anxious. On one hand, he was afraid that Peng Zhongfei would blame him. On the other hand, he was afraid that Gu Yundong would die and he would not have the antidote. However, Gu Yundong was not anxious at all. When the servant came over, she would hide. As she hid, she shouted anxiously, "Young Master Peng, you can break my hand, but one still have to tell you that there's something strange about those 3 blueprints. If you die later, it won't be my fault." "Strange?" Peng Zhongfei was stunned. Lu Wei, who was beside him, also said, "Brother Peng, I think she's serious. Why don't we hear what's strange about it? If what she said is true, then you..." Peng Zhongfei tightened his grip and waved his hand to stop the servant. Then, he glared at Gu Yundong with a dark expression. "All right, I'll give you a chance. If you can't explain, not only will I break your hand, but your mouth will also be sewn shut." Gu Yundong took 2 deep breaths and sat at the side to pour himself a glass of water. "Young Master Peng, you'll know what's going on after you hear it." As she spoke, she looked around mysteriously. Peng Zhongfei understood and asked Chang Fu and the servant to leave. Finally, he looked at Lu Wei. The latter said seriously, 111 be a witness. If this girl talks nonsense, I'll definitely stand on your side." Peng Zhongfei's lips twitched. He knew that he would not be able to chase this guy away. Even if he knew about the blueprint, it did not matter much. Could it be that he would stand up for justice for a country girl? The Liu family was not someone who would interfere when they saw injustice. Seeing that he was silent, Lu Wei went up and closed the door very considerately. Then, he sat down and said, "Miss, tell me, what's strange?" "Young Master Peng, do you know my background?" Gu Yundong asked. Peng Zhongfei nodded. It was precisely because he knew that she had no background that he took the blueprint boldly. Gu Yundong said, "Isn't it strange for young Master Peng? I'm a refugee. I even brought my mother and younger siblings along on the way to escape. But in the end, not only did one arrive at Yongfu village safely, but I also used Lu Taels of silver to build such a huge house. Think about it, who can do this among millions of refugees?" When she said this, not only was Peng Zhongfei stunned, but even Lu Wei was surprised. However, when she thought of what he had seen and heard yesterday, she could not help but say, "Isn't it because you're ruthless?" "That's just fooling the villagers who don't know anything. Anyone with a brain won't believe that a 13-year-old girl could do this with her ruthlessness. There were so many bandits and refugees on the road. Could one deal with more than 10 people alone? Liu Wei was speechless. He believed her. Was he brainless? Unwilling to give up, he snorted. Then tell me, how did you do it? Because, Gu Yundong suddenly lowered his voice and said mysteriously, those 3 blueprints. Chapter 95, Tearing them to pieces. Peng Zhongfei and Liu Wei felt an inexplicable chill down their spines. What does it have to do with those 3 blueprints? Of course it's related. Let me tell you, on the way, I met a very strange old man. Gu Yundong expressed that if she was given a fulcrum, she could make up a whole story. Before that old man died, he gave me those 3 blueprints and said that they were his life's work. At that time, one even thought that you drew just these 3 blueprints for your life? You're too useless. You have a lot of ideas. Gu Yundong was especially good at creating an atmosphere of storytelling. Her voice was sometimes high and sometimes low. After he handed the blueprint to me, he asked me to choose a location at the foot of a mountain after we settled down. According to the blueprint, we will build a green brick tiled house. Then, we will reserve a room for him there. We will offer him 3 incense sticks every morning and night. At that time, I said that I had no money, no ability, and that I wasn't even sure how many days one could live. I was afraid that I wouldn't be able to help him. One didn't expect that old man to take out 100 taels of silver and give it to me. He said that this was the money used to build a house and he would bless me to reach a safe place safely. However, I had to fulfill his request. Otherwise, I would be unlucky. If it was serious, it would kill me. Wasn't he a liar? Even a charlatan wouldn't dare to make up such a story, right? If he was really so capable, why would he die of old age and illness? I didn't believe that he's so capable. However, on account of the 100 taels of silver, one still helped to hold his funeral after he died. As for the 3 blueprints, I felt that it was a burden to keep them, so one tore them up. Then, a terrifying thing happened. Gu Yundong swallowed hard as she spoke. She widened her eyes and looked terrified, causing the other 2 to hold their breaths. Gu Yundong said, after tearing the blueprints, I didn't take them seriously. In the end, at night, when we took out the blanket from the basket and were about to rest, we realized that the 3 blueprints had appeared in front of me. Hiss, Liu Wei gasped. Really? Of course it's true. I was scared to death at that time. It was as if I had seen a ghost. In a panic, I tore it apart again, but in the blink of an eye, they appeared intact again. Moreover, that night, one fell while walking. One choked on my food and water. One even encountered bandits who wanted to kill me. I almost lost my life. It was as if all the unfortunate things happened that day. When Gu Yundong mentioned this, she still looked like she had lingering fears. At that time, I felt that what the old man said might be true. I didn't dare to be disrespectful, so I kept the blueprint well. In the end, one really survived with my mother and younger siblings. So when one arrived at Yongfu village, I immediately chose a land with a backing and built a house. I didn't expect that the blueprint would be taken away by young Master Peng this morning. I panicked. Young Master Peng is the precious young master of our county's Peng family. If something happened because of me, wouldn't I be unable to absolve myself of the blame even if I died 1,000 times? One rushed over. One thought that before the situation was too serious, one would quickly explain it to young Master Peng. Peng Zhongfei and Liu Wei felt like they were listening to a heavenly book. Their faces were filled with disbelief. However, people nowadays were still very respectful of ghosts and deities, especially when Gu Yundong said it in a terrifying manner, as if it really happened. However, it was not as if she could say whatever she wanted. Peng Zhongfei snorted. Don't tell me you're making up a story. Who knows if it's true? That's simple. If young Master Peng doesn't believe me, you can take out that blueprint and tear one to see if it will appear intact again. Peng Zhongfei frowned. He gritted his teeth and really took out the blueprint. Then, in front of Lu Wei and Gu Yundong, he tore it into pieces, the kind that could not even be pieced together. Gu Yundong lowered his head and smiled. Chapter 96. It really appeared the fragments fell to the ground. Peng Zhongfei and Lu Wei narrowed their eyes and stared at the ground. Their expressions were especially solemn, as if they wanted to watch helplessly as the fragments reassembled into a blueprint in front of them. However, there was no movement for a long time. Peng Zhongfei sneered. As expected, you're lying. Have you thought about whether to break your hand or sew your mouth? Gu Yundong frowned. That's impossible. Let me take a look. As she spoke, she walked towards the two of them. When she walked behind Peng Zhongfei, she gently touched his back. That action was instantaneous. Not to mention Lu Wei, even Peng Zhongfei himself did not notice it at all. Gu Yundong looked at the fragments of the blueprint on the ground. When she met Peng Zhongfei's gloomy expression, she suddenly shivered. She seemed to have thought of something and clapped her hands. Oh, right, I remember now. After one tore the blueprint appeared elsewhere. Why don't we look in the room? Peng Zhongfei suddenly turned around and stretched out his hand, almost hitting her eyes. You still want to stall for time and play tricks, right? Before he could finish speaking, Lu Wei, who was standing beside him, suddenly took a big step back and knocked over 2 round stools by his feet, making a dull sound. Peng Zhongfei frowned and turned to look at him. He saw Lu Wei staring at his back in shock. The blueprint has indeed appeared. Where? Peng Zhongfei panicked for a moment, but he still forced himself to calm down. Lu Wei pointed at him. On your back. This was too strange. Lu Wei wiped his eyes forcefully, looking like he couldn't believe it. Impossible. Peng Zhongfei shook his head. His hand subconsciously reached back, but he stopped halfway. He swallowed his saliva and asked, Is it really, on my back? Lu Wei nodded desperately. Peng Zhongfei instantly felt cold sweat on his body. After a pause, he closed his eyes and suddenly pulled the blueprint off his back. As soon as he saw the contents of the blueprint, Peng Zhongfei widened his eyes and sucked in a cold breath. He threw the blueprint away. Gu Yundong was quick-witted. Before the blueprint fell to the ground, she hurriedly grabbed it and exhaled softly. Then, she looked up at Peng Zhongfei and whispered, Young Master Peng, I'm not lying to you, right? Peng Zhongfei walked far away from the blueprint. He wanted to squeeze out a smile, but he could not. He couldn't help but mutter, Impossible. This must be a trick of yours. Impossible. Gu Yundong was very kind. Then why don't you tear another one? Get lost. What kind of stupid idea was that? Gu Yundong carefully placed the blueprint in her hand on the table and gently smoothed it out. Then, she put her palms together and closed her eyes as she muttered, Don't blame anyone. Grandpa, young Master Peng didn't do it on purpose. Don't blame him. After all, this matter is too strange. Not to mention young Master Peng, no one will believe it. Peng Zhongfei was crept out by her. He felt that there was really something in the room. Fortunately, there were 2 people here. He chuckled dryly. That's right. Who would believe such a thing? Bang. Pa, just as he finished speaking, a cracking sound suddenly echoed in his ears. Other than Gu Yundong, Peng Zhongfei and Lu Wei were so shocked that they almost jumped up. Their expressions changed instantly. Chapter 97. Maybe the wind is too strong. The 2 of them slowly turned their heads with some difficulty and looked at the place where the sound had come from. There was a shelf there. There was originally a half-meter tall vase on it. At this moment, the vase fell to the ground and shattered without any warning. Just like the blueprint that Peng Zhongfei had torn off just now, it turned into pieces. Peng Zhongfei swallowed his saliva and did not dare to go forward. On the other hand, Gu Yundong walked to the vase in a few steps. She glanced at the broken vase, the flowers on the ground, and the water. She looked up at the two of them and said, "Actually, perhaps the wind was a little strong just now." The vase was blown over, so it shattered. It might not be related to the blueprint. Their gazes immediately shifted to her, and their expressions said, "Even if you want to find an excuse, you have to find something decent, okay?" Not to mention that the door of this room was closed and there was no wind at all. Even if there was, could it blow down such a heavy vase? There was still water inside. It was not low in weight at all, okay? Gu Yundong laughed dryly. Then what should we do now? Lu Wei looked at Peng Zhongfei, whose face was pale. If the blueprint had suddenly appeared behind him, it might have been the girl who did it with some unknown method, but this vase had coincidentally shattered completely. It was too strange. The three of them stood far away. There was no wind, and the ground did not shake, unless there was a ghost. Lu Wei couldn't help but shiver. He regretted staying behind to watch the drama. Would the old man think that he was in cahoots with Peng Zhongfei? In all honesty, he was a good person. Thinking of this, Lu Wei could not help but take a small step back. Peng Zhongfei was flustered and did not notice his small actions. His footsteps were a little slow and trembling as he moved towards the vase. Gu Yundong turned his body slightly to make way for him. At the same time, she pulled out a crossbow from under the cabinet and stored it in her space. Just now, she took advantage of the fact that the two of them were not paying attention and aimed the crossbow at the vase. The angle happened to be at the foot of the cabinet, which was not easy to see. The moment the vase shattered, she came over to block their vision. Good. Perfect. It'll scare you to death. Peng Zhongfei did not reach the broken vase. He stopped 2 steps away. He swallowed hard and looked at Gu Yundong. He said, "Take the blueprint back. Take it back quickly. Don't appear in front of me again." Gu Yundong stood up. "Don't worry, young Master Peng." Before she could finish speaking, a faint and ancient voice suddenly sounded in the room. "Kid, you're so bold. If I don't punish you, do you really think I'm easy to bully?" Lu Wei was shocked and turned to look at the source of the sound. No one, not a single person, had said such a thing out of the blue. Peng Zhongfei's lips were pale as he looked at Gu Yundong. Gu Yundong looked also puzzled. She pretended to be very angry and ran to the place where the sound came from. "Who's playing tricks here? Come out." She lifted the curtain over there and put the recording pen that she had placed in the curtain into her spatial storage. That was a line from a television drama. After separating from Shao Qingyuan, she had found a place to secretly record it. There's no one." Gu Yundong turned her head and her voice was trembling. She looked at Peng Zhongfei as if she was about to cry. "I've never encountered such a situation before. I was just a little unlucky. There was no need to be so scary. I'm so afraid." Chapter 98, 200 Tales of Sincerity. Lu Wei expressed that he was also very afraid. Could he leave now? Just as he was thinking this, hurried footsteps came from outside, followed by Peng Zhongfei's voice. "Young master, bad news. Aunt Shui lost her footing and fell into the water." "What?" Peng Zhongfei quickly opened the door. "How is she?" "She was saved, but she was quite shocked." "That's good." Peng Zhongfei heaved a sigh of relief. The voice that had appeared out of nowhere echoed in his mind. "Punishment. Oh yes, it must be punishment." He hurriedly turned his head and looked at the blueprint that Gu Yundong had placed on the table. He trembled and apologized sincerely. "Great Immortal, it's my fault. One was wrong. I'll apologize to you. One deserved to die. I'm a bastard. I'm not a good person. I won't have a good ending for doing bad things." As he spoke, he slapped himself hard twice. "Great Immortal, one promised that one won't be greedy for the blueprints in the future and won't destroy them. Moreover, this really isn't my fault. It's all because of him. He gave it to me. 111 Deal with him later. With that, he looked at Gu Yundong. Is this okay? I don't know either. In the past, one was unlucky when I tore up the blueprint. You even planned to let someone smash the house after it was built. The situation seems to be more serious than mine. One don't know if he will accept your apology, Gu Yundong said awkwardly. Just as she finished speaking, the servant outside the door said in a panic, "Young master, Black Wolf." Black Wolf suddenly foamed at the mouth and fell to the ground. The Black Wolf was a wolfhound raised by Peng Zhongfei. It usually ate raw meat and drank hot blood. It was raised very ferociously. Not to mention the people outside, even many servants in the Peng residence were bitten until they bled. However, Peng Zhongfei liked it very much. He felt that this dog had a wolf's nature. He often trained it to bite living creatures, including humans. Now, this dog died an inexplicable death. No, how could it be inexplicable? Peng Zhongfei knelt on the ground this time. He was so frightened that his voice trembled. Great Immortal, please spare me. I was blind to not recognize you. One was wrong. Give me a chance. 111 Offer you 3 incense sticks in the morning and night. 111 Buy you the best tribute. How about this? I'll pay for your house. Please spare me this time. Gu Yundong's eyes flickered. Aya, he was finally getting to the point. Young Master Peng, don't be like this. Actually, Grandpa is not a bad person. As long as you sincerely repent, he will definitely forgive you. Gu Yundong said, actually, there's no need to pay any money to build a house. Grandpa has already given me the money. That won't do, that won't do. One have to give it. How about this? You can keep the Liu taels of silver that the Great Immortal gave you to buy something else for the Great Immortal. Don't you still need to offer 3 incense sticks in the morning and night? Buy the best incense. The Great Immortal's house is very important. You have to build it well. Liu taels of silver is not enough. 200 taels of silver, 111 give you 200 taels of silver. Gu Yundong was in a difficult position. Is this really good? Then I'm taking advantage of you, young Master Peng. What do you mean by taking advantage? You're just putting in a lot of effort for the Great Immortal. I'll pay and you'll help. I'm very sincere. Lu Wei hurriedly said, I'm also sincere. I'll pay 50 taels. He hoped that the Great Immortal would not treat him and Peng Zhongfei as allies and let him suffer. Gu Yundong's mouth twitched. These rich young masters were really prodigals. Chapter 99, Perfect Resolution. After Peng Zhongfei said that he would pay, he waited for another half an hour. When there was no more bad news outside, he slowly heaved a sigh of relief. It seems that the Great Immortal has agreed, right? He looked at Gu Yundong and asked for confirmation in a low voice. Gu Yundong thought about it and nodded uncertainly. Probably. As soon as she finished speaking, another voice sounded in the room. This time, it was different from the previous time. It was a voice that was difficult to tell if it was male or female. At least you know what's good for you. In the future, you're not allowed to cause trouble for the Gu family. You're not allowed to say a word about what happened today. Yes, yes, yes. Peng Zhongfei and Lu Wei nodded repeatedly. Gu Yundong took the opportunity when they were not paying attention to retract the recording pen. She had recorded this herself, using a voice changer app on her phone. After all, this sentence mentioned the Gu family, so she could not record it from the television drama. However, it was precisely because of the completely different voice from before that the fear in Peng Zhongfei and the other man's hearts intensified. He turned around and went to the inner room. After a while, he took out 2 banknotes, both of which were 100 denominations. There you go. Gu Yundong took the money guiltily. Young Master Peng, don't worry too much. At most, you'll be unlucky a few times. Look, I'm fine. Then I'll leave first. Take care. Gu Yundong put away the drawings on the table and turned to leave the Jinglan manor. She had drawn this blueprint earlier and placed it in her spatial storage. After she handed the first blueprint to Feng Danning, she would sometimes think of places that needed to be modified and added, so she drew a new one. She planned to give it to Feng Danning in 2 days. In fact, there were only some small details that were different. There were not many changes. However, Peng Zhongfei had not studied it carefully. How could he tell the difference between the torn blueprint and the new one? In any case, he was scared out of his wits. Gu Yundong laughed. As soon as he went out, Chang Fu welcomed him. Gu Yundong glanced at him. Let's go. After taking back the blueprint, she did not have to worry about Peng Zhongfei's revenge and even earned 200 taels of silver. Yes, perfect. No, everything would be fine after the last thing. Chang Fu saw that she was in a good mood and had the blueprint in her hand. She actually took it back. He wondered what she had done. As soon as the two of them left, Lu Wei also bade farewell. Peng Zhongfei was no longer in the mood to entertain him. He waved his hand and let him leave. Lu Wei did not leave immediately after leaving the Peng residence. He found an alley and stopped, waiting for Shao Qingyuan in the carriage. Peng Zhongfei paced around in frustration. Thinking of what had just happened, he still felt that something was in the room, so he went out to see his beloved dog. The servant hurriedly followed, but he was sent away by Peng Zhongfei to clean up the broken vase on the ground. He walked very quickly. However, not long after he walked out of the Jinglan manor, a sack was suddenly thrown over his head. Then, a series of punches and kicks landed on his body. Peng Zhongfei screamed in pain and could not resist at all. He waited until the other party was almost tired from fighting before stopping. Shao Qingyuan looked at the motionless person on the ground with an indifferent gaze. From afar, a servant heard the noise and rushed over. He took advantage of the chaos in the Peng residence and slipped away from the back door. Unexpectedly, not long after he walked out, he saw two people tugging at each other. Chapter 10. Oh, dare to say such a thing. Shao Qingyuan frowned. Why were these two people here? What were they up to? He was not in a hurry to leave. He stood on the spot and listened. It was Hu Liang and Zhuangzi from Yongfu village. At this moment, the two of them lowered their voices and argued until their faces were red. They even fought. Hu Liang arrived at the county town a little late. After all, both Gu Yundong and Shao Qingyuan had taken a car over. When he arrived outside the Peng residence, he looked for the servant he knew. B0XO. However, that person was not around. The gatekeeper saw that he was sloppy and looked extremely ugly. He was unwilling to pay attention to him, so Hu Liang was blocked outside the residence. He was furious. Even if he was anxious, he could only wait outside. He could be domineering in the village, but in the county, he was a coward and could only cower. Unexpectedly, not long after, Zhuangzi came and wanted to pull him away. How could Hu Liang let it go? He even kicked him ruthlessly. You coward. You're just like your parents. Your parents were beaten up and scolded, but you didn't dare to fight back. You're the same. You're actually afraid of a 13-year-old brat. Don't say that you're my brother in the future. Get lost. Zhuangzi was furious when he heard that. He was recuperating at home today. Later, his parents came back and told him about the Peng family. He did not think much of it, but he felt that the girl from the Gu family would definitely not let the matter rest. Her temper was not like that. In the end, not long after, Goshen came to his house and told him about Hu Liang's plan to destroy the Gu family's new house. The moment Zhuangzi heard that, he panicked. Although they had a disagreement the day before, they had been brothers for many years. It was impossible for him to just watch him court death. Gu Yundong could not deal with the Peng family, but she was more than enough to deal with Hu Liang. Hadn't he suffered enough these few days? Therefore, he could not be bothered to rest at home. He rushed to the Gu family's homestead and did not see anyone. Later, someone said that he had gone in the direction of the county. Zhuangzi was furious and immediately rushed to the county city. As expected, he saw Hu Liang pacing left and right at the back door of the Peng family. Seeing that he had not entered yet, Zhuangzi heaved a sigh of relief and wanted to take him away on the spot. Who would have thought that not only was he obstinate, but he also kept poking at his heart. He was also angry. Hu Liang, one used to call you big brother because you were loyal, decisive, and smart. But look at you now. You just have to hold on to a little girl and not let go. You clearly suffered at her hands and lost money. You knew that you were not her match, but you still insisted on charging up. You're saying that I'm not loyal, decisive, or smart enough now, right? Hu Liang interrupted him impatiently. Let me tell you, it's precisely because one suffered a loss that I have to take revenge. This is a man's backbone. I'm different from your parents. They don't dare to make a sound when their house is destroyed. They only know how to cry when their family's land is snatched. One think if your sister is raped one day, your family will only obediently give her to the rapist. They won't even dare to let out a fart. Perhaps they have to thank the rapist for taking a fancy to her. Hu Liang. Zhuangzi's eyes widened. How dare you say such a thing? Why wouldn't one dare? Your family is so cowardly. Otherwise, why haven't you had any friends since you were young? If it weren't for the fact that I pity you, you wouldn't even be my underling. Pfft, one don't want you as my underling anymore. In the future, you might have to rely on your sister who sells her body. Chapter 101, Thrown to the Peng residence. Zhuangzi punched him hard in the face. His eyes were bloodshot and his gaze was filled with hatred. Hu Liang, if you want to die, go ahead. From now on, we're not brothers. Just treat it as my kindness being fed to the dogs. He ignored him and turned to leave. Hu Liang sneered. Do you think I care? If it weren't for the fact that I wanted to gather 4 people, one wouldn't be willing to bring you along. Coward. He touched his face and snorted. Damn it, he should have retaliated just now. This kid was too bold to hit him. When he returned to the village, he would teach him a lesson. Although Shao Qingyuan did not hear everything, he knew that Hu Liang was here to cause trouble for Gu Yundong. This person was still unwilling to give up after being taught a lesson. He was like a plaster. So, Shao Qingyuan could not be blamed. Shao Qingyuan flashed out from behind him and knocked him out with a single palm. Then, he walked to the back door of the Peng residence and waited quietly for a moment. When the gatekeeper was called away to speak, he carried Hu Liang in. He directly threw the man behind a big tree outside Jinglan Manor and left the Peng residence silently. Lu Wei was still waiting for him in the alley. When he saw him coming over, he hurriedly lifted the curtain and let the guy come up. Before Shao Qingyuan could sit down, he couldn't wait to say, let me tell you, just halfway through his sentence, he suddenly realized that he couldn't reveal what was happening in the Peng residence. Hence, the tip of his tongue turned and he immediately changed the topic. Let's go. Well, go up the mountain now. We agreed to fight roe deer and tigers. However, Shao Qingyuan said, it's getting late today. Let's go another day. Another day? But I'm in a hurry. However, this timing was indeed a little inappropriate. Lu Wei could only sigh and compromise. All right, then, tomorrow it is. All right. Shao Qingyuan turned his head away. Then, he got out of the car and left without looking back. Lu Wei pouted. We haven't even finished talking. Why are you in such a hurry to leave? However, what exactly did he go to the Peng residence for? At that time, he only asked him to look for Peng Zhongfei to chat and drink tea. He said that he had something to do and looked for the servants in the residence. It was just that this matter took a long time. Shao Qingyuan quickly walked on the road to Yongfu village. He did not delay for long, but he still did not meet Gu Yundong, who had left earlier. At this moment, Gu Yundong had already followed Chang Fu back to the Chang family. Chang Fu pleaded, "Look, you've brought back the blueprint. Can you give me the antidote now?" Gu Yundong gave him a white pill and Chang Fu swallowed it without a word. Gu Yundong ignored him. Chang Fu did not need her to teach him a lesson. Peng Zhongfei had suffered such a huge shock. Wouldn't he find trouble with this guy? Hence, she turned around and said to Feng Danning, "The matter has been resolved. It's rare for me to come to the county city. Want to buy something. Do you want to go back first?" With the 250 taels of silver that Peng Zhongfei and Lu Wei had given her, she was a rich person now. She could buy many items that were not in the plan. "There's no hurry. What do you want to buy? One can help you carry it." Feng Danning really admired Gu Yundong. At such a young age, she was robbed by the overlord young master of the Peng family. It actually took less than 4 hours for her to bring it back and she was completely fine. Feng Danning felt that he could not do it. He suddenly felt that all these years had been in vain. Gu Yundong thought for a moment. After all, Feng Danning was more familiar with this county than her. She nodded. "All right, let's go." Chapter 102, Buying a Carriage. Gu Yundong first brought Feng Danning for lunch. It was the best restaurant in the county, Yuexiang restaurant. Feng Danning only knew that the food in this restaurant was good, but he had never been willing to come in to eat. He did not expect to take advantage of Yundong and taste the food at Yuexiang restaurant. It was delicious, but it was too expensive and the portion was small. Just a palm-sized dish cost 30 copper coins. Feng Danning felt sorry for Gu Yundong's money. However, this girl was very generous. After eating, she asked Feng Danning to bring her to the market. She wanted to buy a carriage. "You want to buy a carriage?" Feng Danning was surprised. This Gu girl who had escaped from the wilderness was indeed more capable than he had imagined. He thought that it would be good enough if she could take out 100 taels of silver to build a house. He did not expect that she still had the money to buy a carriage. Gu Yundong nodded. "It's convenient to buy a carriage. If we hadn't taken someone else's mule cart into the city today, we wouldn't know how much time we would have wasted. Moreover, my sister-in-law is still young. With a carriage, we can bring them to the city to play." Gu Yunshu and Gu Yunke rarely had the chance to go out and play. In the past, when they were in the Gu family, Gu Yunshu was probably the only one who had gone to town. Later, they were on the way to escape. This time, they went far, but they did not have the leisure to stop and take a good look. Now that she had settled down, she had money on hand and could send Yunshu to school. In the future, she would bring them out to play whenever there was a festival. If you want to buy horses, you have to go to the market on East Street, which specializes in selling livestock. It's just that it's already past noon. One don't know if there are any good horses. Gu Yundong nodded. "Then let's go to the market in East Street to take a look. If we can't find anything good today, well, come back another day." Feng Danning laughed and led her to East Street. After noon, the market was not as lively. Feng Danning knew someone here. He was a smart kid who looked after the place. He directly brought them to the innermost part of the market. "Uncle Feng, you're lucky today. Just now, the broker from the Wan family brokerage brought 3 or 4 horses over. I've seen them. They're better than the ones sold this morning." Feng Danning perked up. "Really? Hurry up and bring us to take a look." The horses were indeed good horses, but they were also not cheap. Gu Yundong was not very good at checking horses, but Feng Danning had some experience. In addition, the kid beside him helped to bargain. In the end, he bought a strong brown-haired horse for 15 taels of silver. This horse was quite friendly to Gu Yundong, and she liked it. It was not old, so she decided that it was it. When the broker asked her if she wanted a carriage, she definitely did. However, there was no need for it to be too gorgeous. After all, she often went back and forth in the village. It was all dirt. In the end, Gu Yundong chose an ordinary-looking but sturdy carriage. She put on the horse rope and could leave. This carriage also cost 3 taels. TSK, it was expensive. But now that she had a carriage and a house, Gu Yundong was very satisfied. After the carriage was bought, Gu Yundong wanted to go to South Street to buy something. It was prosperous there and was close to the city gate. Feng Danning was a little excited as he drove the carriage. Men loved vehicles, regardless of modern times or ancient times, even if this vehicle was not his. The two of them took the carriage to the East Street. Unexpectedly, when the carriage passed by the back road of the Peng residence, the door of the Peng residence opened and a person was thrown out heavily. If not for Feng Danning's sharp eyes and quick hands, the horse would have been shocked. Chapter 103, Who Cares? Gu Yundong quickly held the carriage door and sat down. He looked up at the person who had been thrown out. That person was in a sorry state. The lower half of his body looked bloody, and his face was swollen. Why does he look so familiar? Where have I seen him before? She didn't know him, but Feng Danning did. He was shocked. Isn't this Hu Liang? Why is he here and beaten up like this by the Peng family? Yundong, should we? Feng Danning wanted to ask if he could help. Although this rascal was quite hateful, they were from the same village after all. It was a little unreasonable for him to stand by and do nothing when he saw him like this. Unexpectedly, before he could finish speaking, Hu Liang, who was beaten half to death, started crying at the Peng residence. I'm not lying. I'm really here to look for young Master Peng. That Gu Yundong wants to harm young Master Peng. She went around our village saying that young Master Peng stole her things and even said that she has a backer to torture young Master Peng to death. Hu Liang did not know how things had turned out like this. He had been in the Peng residence since the moment he woke up. He was about to look for young Master Peng when he was caught. They said that he was a thief who had broken into the residence. He must have been involved in young Master's accident. Then, he was beaten up without a word and thrown out. Gu Yundong sneered. Facing Feng Danning's similarly gloomy expression, she said, "Who cares if he dies?" It didn't look like he had been hit very seriously. He still had so much strength to frame her. Feng Danning did not look at Hu Liang again and drove the carriage past him. Hu Liang still wanted to work hard, but he did not expect another person to come out of the Peng residence. It was Peng Zhongfei's servant. This servant had been taking care of Peng Zhongfei, who had been beaten up previously. Later on, he heard the subordinates talking about Hu Liang. When he reported it to the young master was actually very angry. He said that the Gu family was under his protection now. Whoever dared to destroy the Gu family's house would be going against the Peng family. He asked the servant to come out and give Hu Liang a warning. The servant did not look at Hu Liang. He only said a few words to the thugs beside him before entering again. As soon as he left, the thugs began to approach Hu Liang step by step. Gu Yundong and his wife did not know what happened after that. As soon as she arrived at South Street, she started shopping crazily. With money in her hands, she did not panic. In addition, she was living in the Zhang family now, so she did not need to be wary of anyone. She bought a few bolts of cloth from the shop and then went to the provision store to buy daily necessities. However, the provision store in the county city was really too small compared to the prefectural city. When she saw the jewelry shop, she went in and bought 2 small gold locks for Gu Yunshu and Gu Yunke. She remembered that the youngest son of the second branch had a small golden lock. Gu Yunshu was very envious when he saw it. Now that she saw it, she would definitely be happy. There was also a silver hairpin for her mother. She was good-looking. After cleaning up, she would be a beauty. With some jewelry, she was simply too pleasing to the eye. In the end, she bought herself a pair of earrings. Yes, if she was rich, she had to show off. After buying the jewelry, she went to buy a lot of food. Thinking of Shao Qingyuan, she paused and went to the blacksmith's shop to get a barbecue rack. She could come over and get it in 5 to 6 days. When the time came, she would make him a barbecue. After buying everything, it was almost evening. Satisfied, Gu Yundong returned to the village in the carriage. Even though it was getting late, the carriage still attracted everyone's attention as soon as it entered the village. Chapter 104:1 Bought it. The driver was Feng Danning. Many people in the village knew that Feng Danning had followed Gu Yundong to the Peng residence this morning. It was all thanks to Jianghu Xiang's publicity. Therefore, when they saw him, everyone could not help but surround him. They even asked him where this carriage came from. Was it from the Peng residence? Before Feng Danning could answer, he was interrupted by Jianghu, who had rushed over to watch the show. What do you mean the Peng family gave it to him? What are you all thinking? Gu Yundong went to cause trouble for young Master Peng, but the Peng family still gave them a carriage? As he spoke, he even laughed loudly and said maliciously, I think she was beaten to death by the Peng family. Feng Danning hired a carriage to pull her back, right? Everyone took 2 steps back with a whoosh. They widened their eyes and looked at the carriage in fear, as if bright red blood would flow out at any time. Feng Danning felt helpless. Jianghu was full of nonsense. No matter how domineering the Peng family was, they would not dare to kill someone so blatantly and ask him to pull the corpse back. However, everyone in the village believed it. Even Qianxia, who had rushed over later, widened his eyes in disbelief. He said bitterly, Did something really happen? Sigh, Danning, why didn't you stop them? You. Before he could finish speaking, Gu Yundong slowly lifted the curtain and smiled at everyone. This carriage was indeed not given by the Peng family. I bought it myself. Whoa. Everyone took a small step back in unison. The smug smile on Jianghu Xiang's face instantly froze. She widened her eyes and looked at Gu Yundong. You're fine? What are you talking about? What can happen to me? Didn't you go and find trouble with the Peng family? Gu Yundong looked innocent. Who did you hear that from? Jianghu shouted, I heard it with my own ears. It was clearly Feng Danning who said that the blueprint had been taken away by young Master Peng. He didn't even allow you to build a house. You went to the Peng family to ask for an explanation. Oh, so she was eavesdropping. Gu Yundong raised his eyebrows. Oh, young Master Peng only said that my drawing is very good and wanted to borrow it to take a look. I happened to be going to the county city to buy something today, so I took the drawing back. Why is it that when it comes to you, it becomes me going to the Peng residence to demand an explanation? Do you dare to say this in front of young Master Peng? Feng Danning said righteously, that's right. Yundong wanted to buy a carriage. One happened to be more familiar with it, so she asked me to help her pick one. She could also go to the Peng residence to get the blueprints. Jianghu, how can you distort the truth and spread rumors everywhere, making everyone panic? Jianghu was dumbfounded. Did she hear wrongly? No. The others suddenly understood. So that was the case. If it was really as Jianghu had said, would Feng Danning and Gu Yundong be able to return safely? Indeed, they could not trust Big Mouth's words too much. Qingyuan heaved a sigh of relief and turned his attention to the carriage. Did you buy this? Gu Yundong got out of the carriage. I thought that it would be more convenient with a carriage. We won't have to rely on our legs to go to the county next time. Qingyuan nodded. The Gu family was indeed wealthy. The Gu girl. At this moment, someone suddenly called out to her from the side and said enviously, Your carriage looks very good. This horse looks strong. The carriage is also sturdy and big. In the future, when we go to the county city, it will be convenient, right? Chapter 105. Home. Gu Yundong looked at the man. He was a middle-aged man. She did not know him, but she did not like to hear him say such things in front of everyone. Hence, she smiled at that person and said, It's my family's convenience. It has nothing to do with you. That person was stunned. This little girl really didn't know how to conduct herself. He raised his eyebrows. Why? We're from the same village. If we need help, you're not even willing to lend your carriage? Yes, as long as you pay 20 copper coins per trip to the county. The price was clearly stated, lest everyone wanted to curry favor and take advantage of her. Did she look like someone who was easy to talk to? You're too black-hearted. We're all from the same village, and you're actually charging money? That person immediately shouted, isn't that right, everyone? We'll only pay 3 copper coins each if we take the ox cart to the county. Gu Yundong said, oh, so you know that you have to pay for taking someone else's carriage. I thought you didn't know that even biological brothers have to settle accounts clearly. If you think it's too expensive, you can choose not to take it. I bought the carriage for myself, not for you. That person choked. Chen Liang, who was at the side, could not stand it anymore. All right, one look and you can tell that this carriage is not cheap. There are so many people in the entire village. If everybody takes it, can you let her have some peace? The carriage is not for public use. One think the method of charging money is quite good. If you can afford it, you can take it. If you can't, you can take the ox cart. It's been like this for so many years. Why? Does the Gu family buy a carriage and your legs are broken? Gu Yundong silently gave him a thumbs up. If she said it, it was like she was looking down on them. The village chief was the right person to say it. As expected, the people around who wanted to take advantage of him were a little flustered, especially the middle-aged man who had just spoken. He could only lower his head and mutter. At this moment, Gu Yunshu ran over with the Xing siblings. Eldest sister, you're finally back. Gu Yundong looked down at his flushed face and reached out to rub his head. Were you obedient at home? Yes, I was. As he spoke, he shifted his gaze to the carriage behind her. Big sister, did you rent a carriage to come back? Gu Yundong carried him to the shaft of the carriage. No, this is our family's carriage. Eldest sister bought it today. If you want to go anywhere in the future, you can take this carriage. Gu Yunshu's eyes lit up and his face turned red. His entire body was trembling. Really? Our carriage? Yes, eldest sister will bring you home. Sit properly. Gu Yundong wanted the Xing siblings to go up too, but the two of them had already run forward. Gu Yundong had no choice but to greet the village chief. It's getting late. My mother is still waiting for me at home, so 111 go home first. Go back, go back. It's been a long day. Chen Liang waved his hand and smiled. No matter what, their village finally had its first carriage. As the village chief, he was also proud. Feng Danning led the carriage inside. There were still many villagers following behind. Although they couldn't take it, they could watch. It was good to feast their eyes. Gu Yundong did not care. When she arrived at the Xing residence, she carried Gu Yunshu down. The little fellow immediately ran in front of the horse. Feng Danning stopped him from approaching in case the horse was shocked. Gu Yundong reminded him before entering the house. Unexpectedly, as soon as she entered, she stumbled towards Gu Yunke. The little girl's eyes were red, as if she had just cried. Chapter 106, Gu Yunke complains. Gu Yundong was stunned. Why are you crying? Who bullied you? It's older brother. The little girl began to complain. Older brother was bad. One also wanted to pick up eldest sister. He didn't even wait for me and ran away. I'm so angry. Gu Yunke was young and malnourished. She would stagger if she walked faster, let alone run. Gu Yunshu did not notice and ran to the village entrance to pick up eldest sister. The little girl was so angry that she stomped her feet twice. 111 Ignore brother from now on. Just as she finished speaking, Gu Yunshu ran in excitedly and said to her, Little sister, eldest sister bought a carriage. It's outside the door. Hurry up and take a look. The little girl's eyes immediately lit up. I want to see, want to see. Then, she naturally held Gu Yunshu's hand and the two of them happily walked out of the courtyard. Gu Yundong, as long as the two of you are happy. She shook her head and stood up to look at Madame Yang and Madame Dong. Madame Yang's eyes were also sparkling. Gu Yundong laughed. If you want to see it, go and see it. But don't get too close to the horses but. Madame Yang ran away. Only then did Dong Xiulan walk to her side and exhale softly. It's good that you're fine. Qingyuan came back earlier and said that your matter has been resolved. The Peng family won't find trouble with you. But I'm always worried about you not coming back. Auntie Dong, don't worry. If one was not confident that I could solve the problem, one wouldn't have rushed forward rashly. Gu Yundong quite liked Dong Xiulan. You said that Shao Qingyuan is back. Is he next door? I think so. You saw him in the county, didn't you? I did. He even did me a favor. Dong Xiulan immediately smiled. Am I right? Qingyuan is a good child. Yeah. As they were talking, Gu Yunshu came in with a stick of candied hawthorn in his hand. Eldest sister, did you buy this for us? Just now, Uncle Feng said that there were many things to unload in the carriage, so he went to help carry them. He did not expect to see a few red sticks of candied hawthorn as soon as he got in. He was fine, but Gu Yunke had already licked off half of the candy. There should be a few more skewers in the carriage. Give one to Zheng Yu and the others each and leave 2 for Uncle Feng to take home. Gu Yunshu ran away again. When Gu Yundong went out, Feng Danning had already unloaded half of the things in the carriage. Beside him, there were people holding a stick of candied hawthorn in one hand and carrying small items on the ground with the other hand into the house. Gu Yundong rubbed her forehead and chased them to the side to eat. She and Madame Dong brought everything back. The Zheng family's courtyard was not big, but they had a pig shed previously. Although they did not raise pigs anymore, they could still let the horse live in it after tidying it up. Feng Danning had wanted Gu Yundong to leave the carriage at his house, but Gu Yundong saw that the children surrounded the carriage and were unwilling to leave, so he gave up. After Feng Danning left, Gu Yundong began to sort out the pile of things he had bought. She bought a lot of cloth. When she saw one of the navy blue cloths, she subconsciously felt that it was very suitable for Shao Qingyuan, so she bought it. Looking at this piece of cloth, she was a little stunned. It was not easy to give it away, right? Forget it, she would think about it later. Just as she was about to put it away, Dong Xiulan came in. Yundong, Qingyuan sent 2 pheasants over earlier. Are we going to cook them tonight? Her gaze landed on the cloth in her hand. This fabric looks good. Is it for Yunshu? Is the color too dark? Chapter 107, Buying Field, Studying, Finding Father, Treating Illness. Gu Yundong suddenly felt a little guilty. However, he quickly adjusted himself and said, It's not for Yunshu. It's for my father. When I bought the cloth, I counted the entire family. Only now do I remember that my father is not around. Dong Xiulan was afraid that she would be sad, so she quickly said, You'll definitely be reunited soon. You even bought so much cloth? If you trust my skills, I'll make a piece of clothes for each of you. That's good. Gu Yundong smiled. Auntie's embroidery skills are good, so it's definitely not a problem for you to make clothes. But I have to make it clear that you have to be paid. One can't take advantage of Auntie. How is this taking advantage? Look at how much good stuff our family has eaten from you since you came. You went to the county city and came back to buy candied hawthorn for Yuer and the others. I'm so grateful. It won't take much effort to make a few sets of clothes. It's settled. With that, Dong Xiulan left without waiting for her to reject. Gu Yundong laughed and shook her head. She did not insist. After tidying up herself, she went to the kitchen to cook the 2 pheasants. They had agreed to make a salt-baked chicken and a spicy chicken for Shao Qingyuan. Dong Shilan had taken care of the 2 chickens, so Gu Yundong moved much faster. In addition to the 2 chickens, she also bought other vegetables in the county city. When they were done, she asked Gu Yunshu to send them to the neighboring house. After dinner, Gu Yundong sat on the chair and pondered. Now that the blueprints were back, the Peng family would not cause trouble for him. Apart from the money she had to build a house and buy a carriage, she still had about 230 taels of silver. To others, it might seem like a lot, but to Gu Yundong, it was not enough. Not to mention that she did not have a fixed asset like fertile land. She still had to send Gu Yunshu to school, find Gu Dajiang, and treat Madame Yang. These were all money-burning jobs where she could not save money even if she wanted to. She had to buy a few acres of fertile land. She could rent it out even if she didn't know how to grow it. Yunshu's school was not in a hurry. She heard from the village chief that the school in town had to accept students above the age of 6. Yunshu would only be 6 years old after the new year. She could just ask around first. As for Gu Dajiang, after the house was built, she wanted to personally make a trip to Qingyuan Prefecture. Back then, they had agreed to meet in Qingyuan Prefecture. If Gu Dajiang was still alive, he would definitely go. However, after the chaos in Qingyuan Prefecture, it was hard to say what would happen next. In this era, there was no mobile phone network. It was too difficult to find someone. Also, Madame Yang's illness was actually what Gu Yundong was most worried about at the moment. She was afraid that the blood clot in her brain would spread and aggravate her condition. She hoped that Dr. Song would come back soon. Knock, knock. A soft knocking sound suddenly came from the window. Gu Yundong jumped up from the bed and immediately walked to the window. Who is it? Me. Shao Qingyuan. The corners of Gu Yundong's mouth twitched. Wait a moment. She came out of the house and saw the man's tall and handsome figure under the moonlight. Damn it, why did it feel like every time they met, it was in the middle of the night? It felt like they were dating in private. The salt-baked chicken and spicy chicken are very delicious. Thank you, Shao Qingyuan said. We agreed that since you helped me, I'll cook delicious food for you. Besides, we ate a lot of the wild animals you hunted. That's why I'm here. I want to ask you for a favor. Gu Yundong was stunned. What favor? Shao Qingyuan bent down and handed over a cloth bag by his feet. Chapter 108. Under the stove. Only then did Gu Yundong notice that there was something beside his feet. What is this? White flour, Shao Qingyuan said. I'm going to bring that young Master Liu into the mountains tomorrow morning. I promised him that one would go deep into the mountains to kill the tigers. I might only be back in 2 or 3 days, so one have to bring some dry food. The steamed buns and pancakes in town are too disgusting. I want you to help make some. Gu Yundong's eyes widened. Tigers? You're going to fight the tigers? Have you fought them before? I did. Once, when he went deep into the mountains, he encountered an old hunter who was bitten by a tiger and was almost forced into a corner. He was the one who knocked the tiger down. Later on, the old hunter dealt with the tiger and gave him the bulk of the money. But you even brought that useless young Master Liu along this time. Won't he be dragging you down? Gu Yundong frowned. He felt that his decision was very unwise. If he wanted to fight the tiger, it would be easier for him to escape if he encountered danger in the mountains alone. But with such a rich young master, Gu Yundong had a feeling that they were courting death. Shao Qingyuan said, he insisted on following. What a prodigal son who wants to drag others down with him. Gu Yundong regretted that she had only received 50 taels of silver in the day. One think it's better for you to knock him out and throw him into a tree. That's what one planned to do. Gu Yundong was speechless. She could not help but laugh. Seeing that he had already made up his mind, Gu Yundong could not say anything. She took the white flour bag. Wait a moment. 111 make pancakes for you now. In this weather, it won't be a problem to keep them for 2 or 3 days. Later, you can make them hot and eat them. By the way, can you eat spicy food? I'll make you some hot sauce. It'll warm you up. Qingyuan couldn't help but smile when he saw her turn around and return to the kitchen. Okay. Gu Yundong's movements were very light. Madame Dong and the rest were sound asleep and were a distance away from the kitchen. Once the door was closed, most of the sound was cut off. Although Qingyuan's culinary skills were not good, he could still start a fire. One of them stood in front of the stove while the other was sitting. The scene was indescribably harmonious. Gu Yundong kneaded the flour and asked about what happened during the day. You were the one who caused Aunt Chui to fall into the water and the dogs to foam at the mouth? Back then, she had asked him to create 2 chaos in the residence in half an hour. It would be best if it was closely related to Peng Zhongfei. Moreover, it was the kind of unlucky thing that made people think that he had done too many bad things and received retribution. As expected, the 2 consecutive incidents made Peng Zhongfei believe her words without a doubt. Aunt Cui's matter had nothing to do with me. The dog was my doing. Qingyuan originally wanted to light a fire in Peng Zhongfei's study, but before he could do so, he realized that Peng Zhongfei's first wife wanted to deal with his beloved concubine, Madame Chui. Qingyuan watched coldly as his wife and concubines fought. When the servants went to Jinglan Manor to report to Peng Zhongfei, he went to find the ferocious dog. When it saw Qingyuan, the dog bared its fangs at him and wanted to bite him, but he kicked it away. Then, this dog foamed at the mouth. Gu Yundong could not help but laugh when she heard that. She was very agile. When Qingyuan asked her how to get the blueprint back, she said what she needed to say. There was nothing to hide from the 2 of them. When all the pancakes were done, Gu Yundong gathered them all and handed them to Qingyuan. Time was limited, so she could only make do with this. Qingyuan was about to leave with the cloth bag containing the hot pancakes and sauce when Gu Yundong suddenly thought of something and hurriedly stopped him. Wait a moment. Chapter 109. Who is Qingyuan? Gu Yundong ran into his room and quickly came out with the crossbow in his hand. I'll lend this to you, she said. But after you defeat the tiger, you'll give me 10% of the silver. It's not that I'm ruthless, but this is good stuff. You've seen it before. It's powerful and life-saving. Qingyuan lowered his head and looked at the crossbow in his hand. His slightly lowered eyes seemed to flash. His fingers tightened slightly. After a moment, he looked up. I'll give you 20%. Gu Yundong's eyes lit up. This guy was too smart. Only then did Qingyuan leave. However, his back view made him look even taller. Gu Yundong then tidied up the kitchen and went to sleep. The next morning, the entire Yongfu village became noisy again. It wasn't farm time now, and most of the people were chatting outside. Hence, they saw the gorgeous carriage that had sped over early in the morning. Everyone at the village entrance stood up with a whoosh. What's going on? The Gu family bought a carriage yesterday. Who bought it today? As soon as someone finished speaking, he heard the servant driving the carriage ask, Brother, how do we get to Qingyuan's house? Qingyuan? Who is it? There's no such person in our village. Did you find the wrong person? The servant was dumbfounded. What? There was no such person. Isn't this Yongfu village? It's Yongfu village, but there's indeed no one called Qingyuan. Tell me in detail what that person looks like. He might be from the neighboring village. I'll help you ask around. Why ask? Madame Zhou couldn't stand it anymore. She squeezed in with a washing basin and couldn't help but roll her eyes at the group of people. Then, she said to the servant, Why are you looking for Qingyuan? Don't tell me you're looking for trouble. The curtain of the carriage was lifted, revealing Lu Wei's face. He smiled and said to Madame Zhou, I'm looking for him to help me. He's from this village, right? Someone beside him recognized him. Wasn't this the young master behind Madame Fang and her daughter that day? The discussions at the side made Madame Zhou understand. It seemed that they were not looking for trouble. She heaved a sigh of relief and pointed to the left. Shao Qingyuan's house is at the foot of the mountain over there. Go over and you'll see a house under construction. Just go a little further. A villager exclaimed, "Isn't that the home of a wolf cub?" A wolf cub, that's right, the wolf cub seemed to be called Shao Qing something. This was a habit, and they almost forgot his original name. Lu Wei thanked him and asked the servant to drive the carriage to the Shao family. When everyone saw him leave, they followed behind curiously. Not long after, Lu Wei entered the Shao family's house. Chapter 11. Oh, what are you smug about? Madame Fang and her daughter were extremely regretful. Why didn't young Master Lu look for them first when he came? Why did he directly find out that the Shao family was here? The two of them sighed and looked in the direction of the foot of the mountain. When the other villagers saw this, they surrounded them. Previously, they did not dare to approach the Shao family. Now that Shao Qingyuan had left, they naturally wanted to know how young Master Lu met the wolf cub. Why did he let him bring him into the mountain? Speaking of this, Madame Fang and her daughter were a little smug. Madame Fang smiled and said, "It's all thanks to our Yulan that wolf cub knows young Master Lu. Everyone knows that my nephew just got married not long ago. This new wife is young Master Liu's mother, Madame Liu's favored maidservant. The new wife has a good relationship with our Yulan. When she went to the Lu family to see Madame Lu, she brought Yulan along. Yulan heard that young Master Lu is looking for a hunter who killed 2 wild boars not long ago. If he wants to enter the mountains, doesn't he need a familiar hunter? B0XO. Everyone was enlightened. So it was to find a guide. Then you didn't tell young Master Lu about that wolf cub? Why not? But what kind of family is the Lu family? Who is young Master Lu? Why would he be afraid of a wolf cub? Madame Fang said smugly, "My niece-in-law said that young Master Lu knows martial arts. Otherwise, why would he dare to follow the wolf cub into the mountain without bringing anyone? Don't underestimate him." "How much money can that wolf cub get by bringing him into the mountains?" someone asked. Madame Fang really didn't know about this, but it didn't stop her from thinking. Hence, after a pause, Madame Fang stretched out 2 fingers and shook them. "Definitely. 2 taels of silver? Of course. Young Master Lu has always been generous." Speaking of the Lu family, Madame Fang and her daughter really talked non-stop. Madame Zhou's face darkened. She held the wooden basin and snorted. Then, she turned around and went home. Her second daughter-in-law, Madame Song, was also in the crowd. Seeing this, she hurriedly followed and took the wooden basin from her mother-in-law. Madame Zhou walked away quickly. One don't know what's there to be happy about. Is it worth it for her to be so smug when her nephew marries a maidservant who serves others? What is she thinking? She even took it out and spread it around. Don't you know that she's a widow? Look at the men around her. She's simply embarrassing our Qin family. Mother, don't be angry. Second aunt said that after Sister Yulan marries into the Wu family, she will also go to town. We won't see her a lot in the future. Madame Zhou sneered. She still wants to live in town? How much money does she have? If she goes to town, she will need money to buy anything. She might have to borrow from us again. If she borrows it, she won't return it. Besides, look at how petty she was just now. Is young Master Lu being generous by giving him 2 taels of silver? Even the Gu family's Yundong is. She instantly stopped talking. It was not good to say this outside, and it would not be good for others to hear it. However, when she thought of Madame Fang's expression, Madame Zhou felt uncomfortable. The two of them entered the house one after another. Just as they entered, they saw Niu Dan rushing out. Madame Zhou couldn't even stop him. "Hey, Where are you going so early in the morning? Niu Dan was lucky. He had only been in school for a few days, but he had already met a rest day. Where else can one go? Niu Dan had already run far away. Madame Song couldn't help but laugh. He must be going to the Gu family. Last time, after eating at the Gu family, he despised my cooking and said that eating meat was like eating grass. Yesterday, when he came back from school, he rushed to the Gu family. Yunshu even gave him a stick of candied hawthorn. Now, he can't wait to stay in the Gu family. Madame Zhou was stunned for a moment. Just as she was about to say something, a shrill cry suddenly came from outside. Chapter 111, making the call. This voice suddenly became sharp, startling the mother-in-law and daughter-in-law who were talking. Madame Zhou quickly walked out. What's going on? What happened? Qinliang also came out of the inner room. The few of them came to the front yard and saw Qingyuan sitting on the ground crying. Village chief, our Liangzi is in trouble. His legs were broken. Qinliang and the others were shocked. Before they could react, they saw Hu Liang being carried into the courtyard. Hu Liang looked terrible. The smell of blood on his body was extremely strong. His eyes were closed as he fell asleep. Qinliang quickly took a few steps forward. What's going on? Who hit him? Qingyuan immediately pointed to a man who was being held by the Hu brothers. That's him. Liangzi came back with him. That person struggled angrily but did not break free. His face was ashen as he said, "You guys really don't know what's good for you. I was kind enough to send your son back, but you guys are blackmailing me. Bah, if I had known, I wouldn't have cared about your son's life." Qingyuan got up and rushed over to grab the man's face. What did you say? Say it again. Qinliang quickly called his wife and daughter-in-law to stop her. What are you doing? He hasn't said it clearly. Why did you attack? Then, he looked at the man and asked, what exactly happened? The man snorted. Uncle Qinliang, Quan from the neighboring village. You should know my father, Fang. I've been working in the county city recently. This morning, one saw Hu Liang being thrown into the alley with blood all over him. One didn't know what happened, so one brought him back out of kindness. Who knew that when one sent him to the Hu family and wanted to leave, they would invite a doctor while entertain me hypocritically. After the doctor said that he couldn't keep his legs, the Hu family actually didn't let me leave. They even said that I beat Hu Liang up and asked me to compensate. I've never seen such a shameless person. If one had known, I wouldn't have cared about Hu Liang's life at all. Qingyuan shouted, if it wasn't for you, would you be so kind as to send him back? My Liangzi is so pitiful. Why did he meet such a heartless person like you? You're going to be struck by lightning. Quan gritted his teeth. The one who's struck by lightning will be your Hu family. You raised a son who only knows how to steal. He deserves this outcome. Village chief, you heard him. He's admitting that he did it. Madame Zhou and Madame Song could not help but roll their eyes. When did he admit it? Qinliang could not be bothered with her. He only asked Quan, then do you know who beat him up? Quan immediately fell silent. Qinliang frowned. Seeing that Qingyuan wanted to make a fuss again, he glared at her. Go ahead, Quan. One I've asked around. Quan hesitated for a moment before saying, they said that Hu Liang's legs were broken by the people from the Peng family. As soon as he said this, everyone was stunned. Even Qingyuan seemed to have choked. Quan did not mention this at all just now. He only said that they would naturally know when Hu Liang woke up. But how could it be the Peng family? The Peng family had no enmity with their family. What right did they have to break her son's legs? Qingyuan was a person who bullied the weak and feared the strong. Quan was alone. Although she was sad and heartbroken that Liangzi had broken his legs, she still wanted him to compensate her under the instigation of her two sons. However, how would Jin Yuexiang dare to challenge the Peng family? It was at this moment that Gu Yundong entered the village chief's house. Chapter 112. Dream on. Gu Yundong was here to buy fertile land from the village chief. Previously, because of Lu Wei's arrival, a large group of people had gathered at the Xing family's door. After Madame Fang and the others left, Niu Dan ran over to look for Yun Shu to play with. She knew that Chen Liang was resting at home, so she asked where there was fertile land to sell. But looking at the situation in the courtyard now, she seemed to have come at the wrong time. "Chief, can I come back later?" Chen Liang nodded at her, and Gu Yundong turned to leave. Jin Yuexiang suddenly reacted and jumped up. She pointed at Gu Yundong and said, "It's her. She must have done it." Speaking of how her son had offended the Peng family, she could only think of Gu Yundong, who had also gone to the Peng family yesterday. Her son's accident was definitely related to this brat. Gu Yundong was dumbfounded. She was just a passerby. What did it have to do with her? Chen Liang also felt that Jin Yuexiang was being unreasonable. "Why did Yundong hit your son?" "Your family compensated her 5 taels of silver, and Yundong also said that this matter would end here." "Jin Yuexiang, you don't like the young lady, so you threw dirty water at her. Can you still be a human?" Jin Yu was extremely furious. "It's her. Village chief, it's really her. Our Liangzi heard that this brat went to settle scores with the Peng family, so he followed her to the county to look for young Master Peng. In the end, he didn't come back. Fai lost his legs when he was sent back this morning. If it wasn't this girl, who did it?" Chen Liang's face darkened when he heard that. "So you're saying that Hu Liang wanted to harm Yundong first?" Jin Yuexiang choked and quickly argued, "Didn't he fail? On the contrary, my Liangzi ended up like this. You're the village chief of Yongfu village. You have to stand up for my Liangzi." "That's right." The Hu brothers looked at each other and said, "Liangzi's life is ruined. He won't be able to support himself in the future. Gu Yundong has to pay 100 taels of silver no matter what." Gu Yundong's lips twitched. "Dream on. Why? Do you want to have a taste of being whipped by me?" The Hu brothers suddenly shut their mouths and did not dare to speak anymore. Although they had not seen Gu Yundong's actions with their own eyes, they had heard a lot, especially about their parents being sent flying with a kick. On the other side, Quan could not stand it anymore. One already said that it was the Peng residents who did it. The Peng residents spread the word that Hu Liang sneaked into the residence and stole something. He was caught red-handed by the servants of the Peng residence, which was why he was beaten up like this. Gu Yundong said, "Did you hear that? If you still think that one hit him, fine. Let's go to the Peng residence and talk about it. Let's see what's going on. Anyway, my family has a carriage, so it's convenient to enter the county city. But let's make it clear. If you accuse me, this won't be something that can be resolved with 5 taels of silver. Think about it clearly." As she spoke, she looked at the Hu brothers. The two of them quickly turned their heads away. Wrong, wrong. It would be easier to blackmail Quan than Gu Yundong. At this moment, Hu Liang finally opened his eyes. He vaguely heard his mother's voice and tilted his head. Jin Yuexiang immediately reacted and rushed up to shout, "Liangzi, Liangzi, how are you? Tell me, what happened?" When Hu Liang woke up, he was in so much pain that his forehead was covered in sweat. He immediately cried, "Mother, mother, my legs are gone. The Peng family broke my legs." All right, forget about blackmailing Gu Yundong now, even Quan was no longer an option. Chapter 113, Guilty. As soon as Hu Liang said that, the Hu brothers felt that they were in trouble, but what could they do? The village chief was watching from the side. Madame Zhou and Madame Song pursed their lips secretly. They were very tired of the Hu family. Although they were from the same village, Hu Liang was a cancer in the village. It might be a good thing if his legs were broken. Jin Yuexiang did not know what these people were thinking. When she saw that her old son had woken up and confirmed that it was really the Peng family's doing, she panicked and hurriedly asked, "What happened? What exactly happened? Why did the people from the Peng family break your legs for no reason? Did you really go to their house to steal things? You're stupid. How dare you sneak into the Peng family? What will one do in the future?" As she spoke, she started crying. Hu Liang's body was in pain, and he became even more irritable after she cried. "I'm not dead. Stop howling." Jin Yuexiang was instantly choked and could not speak. Gu Yundong quickly held it in so that her laughter would not agitate his family. Chen Liang felt a headache coming on. He took 2 steps forward and stood in front of Hu Liang. He asked, "Tell me clearly, why did the Peng family break your legs? What did you do?" Hu Liang gasped in pain as he screamed. Even if the village chief was in front of him, he could not care less about his temper. "Why? How would one know why? I was knocked out after circling the back door of the Peng residence. When one woke up, I was in the Peng residence. Then, those servants of the Peng residence grabbed me and beat me up. They said that I stole something and threw me out after beating me up. That's not all. They even broke my legs later. I didn't do anything at all. Why don't you ask the people of the Peng residence yourself?" Chen Liang was so angry that he almost fell backward. However, Jin Yuexiang was still saying, "Village chief, you heard it. You have to stand up for our Liangzi." Chen Liang sneered. "Stand up for him? How?" Listen to what he said. There's not a single word of truth. What do you mean by being knocked unconscious and waking up in the Peng residence? What the hell was going on in broad daylight? Stand up for him? How dare you say that when Hu Liang was sneaking around in the past, he didn't think of asking me to stand up for him? Let me tell you, he was caught stealing something. It's already a light punishment to have his legs broken. If you have the ability, bring your 2 sons to the Peng residence and talk to them." Seeing that the village chief had pointed at them, the Hu brothers subconsciously took 2 steps back and said to Jin Yuexiang, "Mother, Liangzi is already like this. In the future, you and father can only rely on us. If the 2 of us offend the Peng family and are beaten up like this, how can our family survive? Besides, Liangzi is in the wrong. How am I in the wrong? Hu Liang was so agitated that he pulled at his wound. Before he could catch his breath, he fainted again. Chen Liang was impatient, especially when he saw the blood seeping out of Hu Liang's body again. He quickly waved his hand. "All right, quickly carry him back and find a doctor to treat him. Don't you know what kind of person Liangzi is? His brother is right. He was in the wrong in the first place. Why are you making a fuss?" Jin Yuexiang was frightened by her 2 sons' words. Although she doted on her old son, she was still the most important. Her old son was already in such a state. She couldn't possibly have nobody to rely on in the future, right? Moreover, she actually felt that Hu Liang was lying. He must have entered the Peng residence to steal something and was caught red-handed. Since the village chief had already said so, he definitely did not intend to interfere. She could only let her 2 sons carry Hu Liang home. Chapter 114, Madame Zhou sending food only. Then did Chen Liang heave a sigh of relief. He turned around and said to Madame Zhou, Hu Liang was spoiled to this extent by his parents. Every time he did something wrong, they didn't hit, scold, or teach him a lesson. They even protected him and doted on him like their eyeballs. Now, someone else has helped teach his son how to be a human. You guys have to remember not to raise Niu Dan to be like him. Madame Zhou and Madame Song nodded. Seeing that the matter had been resolved, Quan said goodbye. Chen Liang expressed his apologies for delaying him. Quan was fine with it. The unreasonable Hu family had nothing to do with Chen Liang. As soon as he left, Chen Liang looked at Gu Yundong, who was quietly standing at the side. A smile instantly appeared on his face, and he felt much more relaxed. Yundong, why are you here? I'm here to buy land from Uncle Qin. Yundong followed him to the central room. Chen Liang was stunned. Are you planning to buy farmland? How much do you want? What kind of farmland do you want? I want to buy more than 10 acres first. It's best if it's a first-rate fertile land. She had asked around and found out that 1 acre of fertile land cost about 10 taels of silver. 10 acres was about enough. Chen Liang lowered his head and thought for a moment before saying, that's not easy. You came late. Previously, there were a few acres of fertile land, but it was bought by the Wang family and the He family. The Wang family and the He family had fled here. Although the two families had yet to build their houses and did not plan to build them well, they found the land immediately. Gu Yundong did not think of this at first. This was the difference between having experience and not having experience. Chen Liang wanted to remind her, but firstly, the two families acted quickly and bought it before Gu Yundong came. Secondly, the Gu family's situation was different. They did not have strong labor and had a few children to take care of. They probably did not have the time. I see. Gu Yundong did not expect that 10 acres of fertile land was not easy to buy. Then Uncle Qin, help me take a look first. Let me know if you have any. I'll prepare the silver first. Alright, I'll keep an eye out for you. Gu Yundong thanked her and went home. However, just as she reached the front yard, she was pulled over by Madame Zhou. Gu Yundong blinked in confusion. Madame Zhou took out a paper bag and handed it to her. This is the dried cinnamon that your Uncle Qin bought in town yesterday. Take it back. You can cook it and eat it as snacks. Auntie, what are you doing? I can't accept this. Hurry up and take it back. Gu Yundong was a little dumbfounded. Why did she offer her food for no reason? However, Madame Zhou forced it into her hand. If I give it to you, just take it. I didn't know that Brat Nyo Dan had been coming to your house to freeload for the past 2 days. I heard that he specially went to eat meat. His mother is really something. She only told me today. Take this food back. Otherwise, Aunt will be angry. Gu Yundong was stunned for a moment before she finally understood. Madame Song lowered her head slightly and smiled. She had actually told Madame Zhou on purpose today. She was a daughter-in-law. Her family could not make the decision, and the good things were not in her hands. Even if they were in her hands, she could not give them away openly. Fortunately, her mother-in-law was sensible and knew that she could not take advantage of others for nothing. Hence, she took out the cinnamon. Madame Song had a good impression of Gu Yundong, especially Nyo Don's happy expression when he came back and talked about the Gu family. If Gu Yunshu had not been playing with Nyo Dan, that brat would not have been willing to study. She heard that he was praised by master because of Gu Yunshu. Gu Yundong could not refuse her kindness. In the end, she took the cinnamon home. As soon as she arrived at the Xing family, she saw Madame Fang and her daughter loitering at the foot of the mountain from afar. Chapter 115, Dumbfounded Liu An. Gu Yundong thought of the mother and daughter's enthusiasm for Lu Wei and felt that it was a little painful to the eyes. Could this be a bad idea? She shook her head and turned to enter. As soon as she entered, she heard a commotion coming from the courtyard. She followed the sound and looked over. She saw Yunshu, Yunke, the Zheng siblings, and Nyo Dan standing in front of the horse shed with a small handful of hay in their hands. Lu Wei's manservant, Liu An, stood at the side and made a fuss as he spoke. You can't feed it too much. It won't be able to eat. Hey, Kiki, how many handfuls have you taken? Gu Yunke opened her round eyes and made a 3 gesture with her hand. I've only taken the second one. It's very hungry. Don't talk nonsense. If one didn't eat for the entire night, the next day, my stomach gurgles. Liu An vomited blood. You're a human, it's a horse. So, you're bullying it? Yunke was furious. Liu An held on to the pillar of the horse shed at the side. Why was it like this? Why was it like this? He only saw the little girl eating a piece of fragrant oil pancake in her hand and was a little greedy. But why did he have to explain the key points of how to raise a horse to a group of children in the end? He was a page boy, not a groom, and definitely not a nanny. Yundong wanted to laugh, especially after Yunke said that. The other children all looked at Liu An accusingly. Dong's words were even more shocking. I heard that those rich families don't treat horses as humans. You also said that they were horses. Of course, they couldn't be seen as humans. It's different for our family. They treat cows very well and give them all the delicious food. Dong's family had a cow that his father and grandfather treasured. The children nodded and felt that it made sense. Liu An was at a loss for words. How could he prove his love for horses? Yundong coughed lightly and walked forward with a smile. Yunke was still holding the dry grass in her hand. She waved it and ran over. Eldest sister, Liu An bullied our horse. Liu An was speechless. Was she not even going to call him brother now? He was inferior to a horse. Yundong took the hay from her hand and put it aside. She said in a low voice, Liu An is right. Horses have very thin bellies, so they can't eat too much. She actually wanted to say stomach, but she was afraid that the children would not understand. When we feed the horses, it's best to cut the hay short, soak it soft or crush it so that the horses can eat happily. Just like Kiki, you can't eat cakes that are too hard and big, right? Yunke nodded, not fully understanding. Eldest sister is right. When you're free, you can even take the horse for a walk. Well, go now. Yunshu also threw away the hay. Eldest sister had said that the horse could not eat too much. Eldest sister was right. Yundong turned to look at Liu An. Thank you. Liu An's eyes widened. He really wasn't a nanny. However, when he thought of what his young master had said before he left, he resigned himself to his fate and left with the children. Then, the other children in the village followed. That night, Shao Qingyuan and Lu Wei didn't return. Madame Fang and her daughter waited at the foot of the mountain for a long time. In the end, they could only go home regretfully. However, the next day, the two of them persevered to the foot of the mountain again. This time, they knew how to cover up. They took the basket and pretended to pick wild vegetables. Yundong was still unaware of their actions. When he woke up the next day, it was already a little late. The Dong family had already gone out. She walked slowly to the courtyard. She did not expect to see Yunshu sitting alone in front of the horse shed with his chin on his hand, mumbling something. Chapter 116, Going to town. Yundong was a little surprised and slowly walked behind him. The little thing sighed, Wind Chaser, I can't take you out for a walk today. Brother Liu An said that he has something to do in the county city. The Zheng brothers and sisters have gone to the fields. Niu Dan also went to school. Mother went to the river to wash clothes. I can't hold you alone, so I can only talk to you here. Wind Chaser was the name they gave the horse yesterday. At that time, Liu An gave them a bunch of names for the horse, but it was too complicated for the children to understand. In the end, they felt that Wind Chaser sounded very fast, so they decided on it. You have to be good. This way, I'll go and gather grass every day for you to eat. In the future, I'll even marry you and let you give birth to foals. Big sister said that when our house is built, you can still live in a big stable. It's very comfortable. By the way, yesterday, Niu Dan taught me 2 words that I don't know. Do you want to know? You must want to know. After all, my elder sister took a fancy to you. You must be an eager to learn horse. 111 write it for you immediately. As Yunshu spoke, he squatted down and used a branch to draw on the ground. After writing, she tilted her head and read it carefully. After wiping it off, she wrote again. Gu Yundong watched from behind him for a long time. When she saw her small figure squatting on the ground alone, she secretly sighed. Yin Shu had only been in Yongfu village for a short period of time. Now, the only good friends she had were Niu Dan and Zhenglu. Niu Dan was going to school. Although Zhenglu was young, he still had to work every day. Early this morning, he went to the fields with his brother and sister. Actually, Yin Shu had to work in the old Gu family in the past. Seeing Zhenglu busy himself, he wanted to follow. But how could Madame Dong let him do things for her? She stopped him and let him rest at home no matter what. She even fed the chickens in the backyard in advance and cleaned the courtyard. Gu Yundong wondered if she should let Yun Shu go to school. This child liked to study very much and was very intelligent. Even if the school in town only accepted children over the age of 6, Yun Shu had basic talent and was only a few months older. Perhaps the teacher could make an exception and accept her. Their house had not been built yet. They did not have poultry, fields, or vegetables. There was a limit to the work they could do. They could try going to the school in town. At the thought of this, Gu Yundong went forward and patted him on the shoulder. Why are you mumbling here alone? Gu Yunshu suddenly turned around. When he saw eldest sister, he hurriedly threw away the branch in his hand and stood up. Elder sister, I'm talking to Wine Chaser. What are you saying? He said that Brother Liu An isn't around, so I can't take him out for a walk. Gu Yundong smiled. What's the big deal? Well, go to town later. Isn't it just nice to take a walk? Gu Yunshu's eyes lit up. To town? Us? Yes, well, leave when mother comes back. Where's Kiki? She's eating in the kitchen. Gu Yunshu sighed. Eldest sister, you really have to talk to her properly. If she continues to eat like this, she'll really become fat. She eats meat early in the morning. It's such a big bowl. As soon as he finished speaking, Gu Yunke rushed out of the kitchen and pushed him twice. Stupid brother, baddie, I'll bite you. Gu Yundong picked her up and shook her. Yes, the young lady was a little heavier than before, but it was not that serious. Compared to those children who were excessively fed and clothed, she still failed. All right, go back to your room and change first. When the two children came out after changing, Madame Yang had also returned. Chapter 117. 2 schools. After following Madame Dong to the river a few times, Madame Yang could go alone now. This was at the foot of the mountain. The laundry place was a little far from the other women in the village, so she would not meet many people. Madame Yang was also at ease. After drying her clothes, Madame Yang immediately went to change her clothes happily. The family set up the carriage. Gu Yundong asked Yun Shu to inform Jianghu next door so that Madame Dong would not be anxious if she could not find them. Then, she got into the carriage and set off for town. Although they had all taken a carriage before, the carriage from before was rented. Now that it was their own, the feeling was definitely different. Along the way, other than Gu Yundong, who was driving the carriage outside, the other 3 were all excited. It took 2 hours to walk to town. It was much faster to take a carriage. They arrived in less than an hour. Although Gu Yundong had been to the county city a few times, it was her first time in town. This place was naturally not as prosperous as the county city, but it was also very lively. Gu Yundong first inquired about the place where the carriage could be stored. When she came out of the carriage, she also asked about the school in town. There were a total of 2 schools in town. One of them was where Niu Dan was. The teachers were a scholar in his 40s and his son. His son usually enlightened students who had just entered the school. The students of the scholar were slightly older. There was another school that was bigger than this first school. There were 2 scholars teaching. However, the difference was that this school accepted students based on money. Not to mention the problem of tuition, even the brush, ink, paper, and inkstone had to be bought by the school. Anyone who had brains would know that there would definitely be a lot of commission in between. Therefore, ordinary people could not afford to attend this school. Most of them were from families with good backgrounds in town. Gu Yundong had never considered a second school from the beginning. Even the teachers in this school were like this. The atmosphere was too bad. Hence, after asking for the address of the first school, she brought the three of them to the door. Yunshu didn't know at first. He just followed his sister and took a look at the town's environment. He only turned to look at Gu Yundong in surprise when he stood in front of a school called Wenmo Hall. Elder sister, why are we here? He remembered that Niu Dan went to school here. Gu Yundong squeezed his small hand. One brought you here to take a look. Why? You don't want to come? Gu Yunshu was stunned, but his watery eyes seemed to glow. He wanted to come, of course he wanted to come. Niu Dan had told him a lot about the school. He didn't know how much he yearned for it, but his family was poor. He heard that all the money was spent on the house and the carriage. Studying cost a lot of money. He didn't want to add to his sister's burden. Gu Yunshu pursed his lips and made up his mind. Just as he was about to say that he did not want to come, he looked up and realized that his eldest sister had already gone forward to speak to the concierge. After a while, she came back and led them through the door. This place was not big. According to Niu Dan, they had two classes. One was a preparation class, and they were all children of his age. The other class was on the other side. Those students were all above the age of 10 and were prepared for the scientific examination. Gu Yundong led the three of them all the way there. They could hear the students from the preparation class reading. They could vaguely hear Niu Dan's voice mixed in. When they were about to reach the central room, they suddenly heard a stern voice coming from the corner. What did one tell you? Look at what you did. Did you listen to the master? Chapter 118, Teacher Gu Yundong stopped in his tracks. Gu Yunke grabbed her hand nervously. The voice from the corner was still there. At this moment, another thin and childish voice sounded. Teacher, I just want to help my family do some work. My family is in trouble now. Father injured his hand, so the work in the field is slow. One think, what are you thinking? The teacher interrupted him sternly. I told you long ago that we are scholars. The hands of scholars hold pens and write. Look at how rough your hands are now. If you use your hands to flip through books, you can cut the pages. Gu Yundong frowned. What was this guy saying? However, the master seemed to get angrier as he spoke. If your family is in trouble, won't other families be in trouble? If you lack money, you can borrow it from the master. Why are you going to the fields? If you want to help your family, you can go and copy books. Will the master stop you? The student lowered his voice even more. There are too many students copying books in town. My handwriting isn't good. The price given by the bookstore owner is too low. What's the reason for your poor handwriting? It's because you took your hands, which should have been holding a pen, to pick up a hoe. You're a scholar. A scholar should do his job. Have you completed the homework I set up every day? You still have the mood to go to the fields. It seems that you've read too little. Master, all right. I don't want to hear it from you. This matter will only happen once. There won't be a next time. Study hard and don't worry about anything else. You're very talented in studying. I believe that you'll definitely be able to pass the Tongxing exam next year. All right, go back. The student did not say anything else and walked out with his head lowered. He did not seem to be in a good mood. The teacher also came out. When he saw Gu Yundong and his family, he was slightly stunned. Then, his expression turned ugly. After the student left, he looked at the gatekeeper. What's going on? Who are they? Why are they brought here? Master, this family's surname is Gu. They want to send their children to school. The teacher glanced at them and quickly looked away. He frowned and said, "Where are the men in the family? Didn't one tell you long ago that if there are women coming over, they will be brought to the madam's place? You ignored my words. If word gets out that this woman and I are alone in the same room, won't my reputation be ruined?" Gu Yundong was speechless. She did not know if she should say anything. The gatekeeper hurriedly explained, "This Miss Gu is the only one in the Gu family who can make decisions. Her father is not around. Madam left early in the morning, so I brought her in." The children of the Gu family know how to read, so old master can teach them. Since when is it your turn to tell old master what to do? So what if they know how to read? Even if they know how to read, you can't bring them to old master. Madam isn't here today, so let them come another day. With that, the teacher flicked his sleeves and turned to leave. He did not even speak to Gu Yundong and the others. The corners of Gu Yundong's mouth twitched violently. The gatekeeper was also depressed. He had only brought them in after receiving a few copper coins. He did not expect the old master to reprimand him. The smile on his face immediately disappeared. He said to the few of them in a low mood, "You heard it too. Let's go, let's go. Come back another day. One told you long ago that the women are all entertained by the madam." Gu Yundong exhaled slowly. She held Gu Young's hand and left. Madame Yang and Gu Yunshu hurriedly followed. Unexpectedly, as soon as they walked out of the door, two women came up to them. One of them looked a little familiar. Chapter 119. Not here. Gu Yundong took a few more glances at the woman and remembered. Wasn't this the in-law she had seen at Madame Fang's house? It seemed like her surname was Wu. According to Madame Fang, the family that was engaged to Qingyuan was indeed from town. Gu Yundong did not like Madame Fang and had an average impression of Auntie Wu. Hence, even if she recognized her, she pretended not to know her and walked past the two of them. Unexpectedly, the gatekeeper suddenly said, "Miss Gu, this is our madam." He pointed at another woman beside Auntie Wu and said, "You can tell madam about your brother going to school first." Gu Yundong smiled. "There's no need. We still have something to do, so we'll leave first." She nodded at the teacher's wife and led the family out of 1mo hall. The lady was stunned and asked the concierge, "What's going on?" The concierge explained their intentions. Madam frowned and did not say anything. However, just as he turned to leave, she saw Madame Wu looking at Gu Yundong's back thoughtfully. She could not help but ask curiously, "Why? Do you know him?" Madame Wu came back to her senses and said with a smile, "I've met her once. She fled here a while ago and settled down in Yongfu village. This family is not a good family. I heard that they like to take advantage of others and don't know what's good for them. You have to be careful. If such a family enters this school, I'm afraid your teacher will fall for her tricks." The madam's expression changed slightly. She knew her master's personality. He was pedantic and inflexible. Wouldn't he be at a disadvantage when he met someone scheming? After some thought, she instructed the concierge, "If you encounter that family again in the future, don't let them in. Not everyone is accepted in our school. Character is very important." "Got it." Gu Yundong could still feel Madame Wu's gaze from afar. They had only met once, so she did not know why she was sizing her up. She secretly shook her head. When she saw Gu Yunshu lowering his head and looking depressed, she could not help but reach out and rub his head. "What's wrong?" "Eldest sister." Gu Yunshu pursed his lips and looked up at her again and again. After a while, he seemed to have made up his mind. One don't want to go to school anymore." Gu Yundong raised his eyebrows. "Why not?" "I heard what the teacher said. He doesn't allow students to work in the fields, but I'm the only man in our family. One have a lot of responsibilities. I want to work in the fields. One also have to do the work at home in the future." Gu Yunshu looked up and said very firmly. Gu Yundong was stunned. Looking at his tense little face, she felt her heart soften. She squatted down and looked at him at eye level. She smiled and said, "Okay, then we won't study here." Gu Yunshu nodded and blamed herself. Eldest sister, one know that I was too willful. You clearly worked so hard to let me go to school. Not only did you ask Miao Dan about the school, but you also bought a carriage to transport me. You even personally came all the way to the school to look for the teacher. In the end, the teacher even scolded you. One let eldest sister down. I'm a bad person. Gu Yundong was speechless. Baby, although one know you can find all kinds of excuses for eldest sister's actions, isn't this a little too much? It's true that I asked Miao Dan about the school for you. But buying a carriage was really just for my convenience. Moreover, it's not a long journey from Yongfu village to town. Chapter 120. Too disappointed. Gu Yundong did not know whether to laugh or cry. Yunshu, eldest sister approves of you not attending this school not because you are too willful, but because eldest sister feels that this teacher is too pedantic and completely contradicts eldest sister's views. Gu Yunshu tilted his head. Huh. In the past, father said that one has to pass many examinations to become a preparation scholar, an elementary scholar, a high scholar, and an honorable scholar. Every time they take an examination, they have to stay in a narrow shed for a day or even a few days. In such an environment, not to mention a weak scholar, even a strong man might not be able to last. Look at that teacher. Isn't he so fair and thin that he looks like he would collapse at the slightest breeze? His thoughts are simply misleading. The imperial court even sets up a field leave every May to encourage students to go home and cut wheat. Why is it that in the eyes of that teacher, field work is something that students shouldn't do? She even suspected that the teacher was still a scholar because he was not feeling well in the examination hall. Moreover, the expression on the master's face when he was with a woman was as if she had tainted his innocence. It was simply blinding. Did he think that he was in high demand? She did not think that the teacher was a bad person. From what he said, if the student's family was in trouble, he would help. It was just that she did not agree with the teacher's views. It was better to find a suitable teacher. Gu Yunshu felt that what eldest sister said made sense. So that teacher is wrong. Gu Yundong pinched his face. Let's not think about Mo Hall. Let's go to another school. Gu Yunshu was about to leave when he heard this and immediately stopped in his tracks. But didn't you say that the school fees are very expensive? This is all hearsay. Eldest sister thinks that it's impossible to judge a school without taking a look personally. For example, Mo Hall. Previously, she had heard the village chief brag about it. It was good in every aspect. Now that she saw the teacher, she felt that rumors were indeed terrifying. Gu Yunshu nodded and followed her obediently. But the result was not satisfactory. Gu Yundong had just spoken a few words with the concierge when the other party asked for a tael of silver first. Later on, they happened to see a teacher who came out. His disdainful expression made people want to hit him. When the teacher saw that they were dressed averagely, he even asked the gatekeeper to chase them away. She would not come to such a lousy school even if it was free. Gu Yundong tried her best to restrain herself from beating him up and left with the three of them. Gu Yunshu sighed faintly and slowly shook his head. I'm simply too disappointed in them. Gu Yundong, who had been holding his breath, was amused by his words. You're so worried at such a young age. It's not like there are only those teachers in this world. If there's no one in town, let's go to the county city. Why are you disappointed? To the county? Yes. Gu Yundong's first choice was the town because it was close and convenient for transportation. Gu Yunshu was young, so it was not a problem for him to be enlightened in the town. He could also go to the county when he was a little older. From the looks of it, she should know more about the schools in the county. Gu Yunshu was extremely distressed. The tuition fees in the county must be very expensive. Both of them were deep in thought. After taking a few steps, they realized that there seemed to be two people missing behind them. Where were her mother and sister? Chapter 121. Returning to the village. Gu Yundong's eyebrows twitched. She quickly turned around to look for it and heaved a sigh of relief. Fortunately, they were only 3 meters away and were not lost. She held Gu Yunshu's hand and turned back. She saw the two of them staring at a stall selling pears. Madame Yang swallowed and whispered, "I'm not hungry." Gu Yunke sniffed hard. "I just want to smell it. One don't want to eat it." As the two of them spoke, they carefully moved their feet, wanting to leave the fruit stall. However, they did not succeed. After moving for a long time, they only managed to move half a meter. On the other hand, the old man selling pears was doing his best to persuade the customers to stay. These pears are very crispy and have a lot of juice. They're sweet and delicious. Why don't you buy 2 for the children? They're not expensive. They're all planted by my family. 1 copper coin for each. Gu Yundong had already walked up to her. Seeing this, she could not help but rub her forehead. She had fruits in her spatial storage, but other than the few apples she took out last time, she did not take any out. One reason was that it was inconvenient to live in someone else's house. The other reason was that there were few fruits here. Coupled with the season, there were even fewer ripe fruits now. Just like apples, they couldn't even be bought in the county. The pears looked good. She looked at the stall in front of her and gave the stall owner 30 copper coins. She picked 30 pears. The old man's eyes lit up. He even gave her 2 more for free. Gu Yundong wiped them with a handkerchief and gave them 1 each. Madame Yang happily took a bite. But Gu Yunke frowned and looked up at Gu Yundong. She said seriously, "I'm just smelling it." I don't want to buy it." She was sensible. Gu Yundong also nodded seriously. "Yes, eldest sister wants to buy it. But let's agree that you're not allowed to stop while walking next time. Even if you want to smell it, you have to tell eldest sister first, understand? Otherwise, if eldest sister didn't notice, you and mother will be lost." Next time, she would hold the young lad's hand and let Gu Yunshu hold Madame Yang's hand. Gu Yunke nodded. "Okay, I'll be obedient. Let's eat." Only then did the little girl bite hard, so sweet that her eyes narrowed. Gu Yundong saw that it was getting late and she had finished asking about the school. She ate a bowl of noodles at the noodle stall and brought her family back to Yongfu village. Gu Yunshu got into the carriage and remembered something. Eldest sister, Niu Dan is still in Wenmo Hall. If the teacher teaches him wrongly, will it be bad for Niu Dan? One have to tell Niu Dan. Gu Yundong was stunned. This matter, she thought for a moment. Don't say any more. I'll talk to the village chief later. However, she felt that nothing would change. She did not agree with the teacher's concept, but most people in this era might still think that he was right. They felt that since they were studying, they should focus on one goal and not be distracted by anything else. Especially in the countryside, where their knowledge was limited, they felt that students should focus all their energy on studying. Going to the fields? We have parents and grandparents at home. We don't need you. Gu Yundong shook her head and drove the carriage back to Yongfu village. Madame Dong was at home, holding the cloth that Gu Yundong had brought over and making clothes for them. Seeing them enter, she quickly stood up and helped lead the carriage into the courtyard. After she tied the reins, she whispered to Gu Yundong, "You didn't know that the Hu family was up to no good again after you left today." Because Hu Liang always caused trouble for Gu Yundong, Madame Dong could not help but pay more attention to the Hu family. Fortunately, he wasn't looking for trouble with her this time. Chapter 122, Books in the Space. Gu Yundong took out the pears and asked as she walked to the kitchen, "What happened to the Hu family?" This morning, Hu Liang woke up and shouted. Later, for some reason, he suddenly said that Zhuangzi had also been to the county city. Moreover, Hu Liang had a fight with Zhuangzi before he was knocked out. Dong Xiulan sighed. Jin Yuexiang went to Zhuangzi's house and insisted that Zhuangzi had harmed Hu Liang and wanted him to compensate. The corners of Gu Yundong's mouth twitched. The Hu family must be crazy to want to extort money from everyone. They said that Zhuangzi knocked Hu Liang unconscious. Where was the evidence? They opened their mouths and bit him. How could Zhuangzi's family be willing? Zhuangzi rushed up to hit the Hu brothers at that time. If Zhuangzi's sister, Lan Huaner, hadn't cleverly gone to look for the village chief, who knows what would have happened? Gu Yundong sympathized with the village chief. Then what happened next? The village chief was also angry. There's no end to their nonsense. He told the Hu family not to cause trouble. It was the Peng family who broke Hu Liang's leg. If you have the ability, go to the Peng family. If you continue to accuse others, they'll chase the Hu family out of the village. The Hu family was shocked and returned home dejectedly. However, this time, the Hu family and Zhuangzi's family had completely fallen out. Dong Xiulan didn't know what the others were thinking, but she felt that this was good. Hu Liang's leg was broken, so let's see if he still dared to do bad things everywhere. Without him taking the lead, Zhuangzi and the other two also knew their place. Gu Yundong treated the Hu family's matter as a joke. She went into the kitchen, washed a few pears, cut them, and asked Dong Xiulan to bring them out for everyone to eat. Then, she carried the remaining pears into her room. She asked them not to disturb her and sat on the edge of the bed. She calmed down and began to search her spatial storage. Gu Yundong vaguely remembered that there were a few books in her spatial storage about planting fruit trees. During the apocalypse, everyone was focused on collecting supplies for food and clothing. Books were thrown aside and ignored. It was the same for Gu Yundong back then. As long as she had food and clothes, she could not care about anything else. Later on, when she was hiding in a small bookstore to avoid zombies, a teammate beside her sighed and said, "If one day, the apocalypse really ends, but these books are destroyed, won't a lot of knowledge be cut off?" As soon as he finished speaking, the zombies came in. In a moment of desperation, Gu Yundong only had time to scoop up the pile of books beside her into her space. Because of her teammates' words, Gu Yundong no longer only collected food and clothes. Occasionally, she would collect things that were not often used. After that, in order to survive, Gu Yundong did not carefully read these books. When she saw the old man selling pears today, Gu Yundong suddenly had the idea of planting fruit trees. There were not many types of fruits here. The prices were not low but ridiculously high. For example, the apples she had seen in the prefectural city. Moreover, fruits were not easy to preserve. The pears she bought today had actually been plucked from the tree for some time. Some of its skin was a little wrinkled. However, she had a spatial storage. Time stopped inside. Even if she kept the fruits for a year or two, they would still be fresh. When it was not easy to sell the fruits in the county city, she could sell them to the prefectural city and further away. Even if she couldn't sell them, she could still make easy-to-storage food like jam and dried fruits. Coincidentally, she knew how to do all of this. To her, the most difficult part was actually the first step, planting fruit trees. Gu Yundong nodded as he walked into the house. "Can one dig a well in this house? After you told me 2 days ago, one got someone to take a look. The front yard won't do. But there's a spring in the backyard that can be dug out. Shall one show you?" "Okay." Feng Danning brought her to the backyard. There was a place surrounded by wooden planks, probably to market. "This is it." Gu Yundong looked at the location. It was actually not very good. However, it was better to have a spring than nothing. There was no need to specially get water from the well. It was much more convenient to cook and wash clothes. After looking at the house, Gu Yundong returned to the Zheng family. There was no one in the courtyard, so the children followed Liu An to walk the horses. Madame Dong was brewing medicine in the kitchen. When she saw her return, she carried the medicine jar to the next room to see Jianghu. Gu Yundong thought of the things she had prepared yesterday and immediately ran to his room. She took out the pears and wooden sticks and went straight to the kitchen. She washed a few pears, peeled them, and cut them into pieces. Then, she used gauze to squeeze out the juice. Chapter 124, Shao Qingyuan is back. It was a pity that she did not have a juicer. Otherwise, she would not be so tired. After squeezing the pears dry and filtering them twice until there was no residue left, she placed them aside as a backup. Then, she started a fire and took out rock sugar and malt sugar. Add pear juice and rock sugar to the pot. Boil it and add a certain amount of malt sugar. The temperature had to be very high. Gu Yundong's forehead was already drenched in sweat. After boiling it for a long time and seeing that it was about time, she slowly poured it into the mold she had made last night. Afraid that she would not be able to take it out if it stuck, she specially applied a thin layer of oil paper under the mold. Then, she took out a small wooden stick. This wooden stick had been cut extremely thin by her, and it was not much different from the kind of wooden stick used for lollipops. When everything was done, there was a chatter at the door. Then, Gu Yong's childish voice could be heard. "It smells so good. Eldest sister made food." After saying that, she ran towards the kitchen and quickly saw the candy on the table. The little girl's eyes lit up. "Big sister, what is this?" "Fruit candy," Gu Yundong said with a smile. She stopped her small figure. "You can't eat it yet. Wait until it's cold and solid." Actually, it was best to put it in the fridge for a few hours, but the conditions here did not allow it. However, the temperature was low now, so they did not have to wait too long. Gu Yunke clicked her tongue and looked at her eagerly. "Then I'll help eldest sister keep an eye on her." "All right, just watch." The young lady insisted on torturing herself, so Gu Yundong had no choice. But she was very obedient. If she said she would not eat it, she would not eat it. Gu Yundong was very assured. After a while, the other children came in. Even Liu An sniffed as he walked to the kitchen. "What's that smell?" "It's sweet." "Candy," Gu Yunke said. When she saw Liu An reaching out to take it, she immediately glared at him angrily. "Eldest sister said that you can't eat it yet." "I'm just looking." Liu An defended himself. The little girl put her hands on her hips. "You're clumsy. You can't touch it." Liu An felt that he had been discriminated against by the little girl. He wanted to defend himself, but Gu Yunshu and the Xing siblings were already standing on the side with the little girl, guarding against him. Liu An was speechless. After all, he was the young master's servant. Why did they act like he had never seen the world? Gu Yundong had already left the kitchen. She took off her apron and went to Sixth Master's house. Since she was free today, she decided to pick a date first. She still had to make a trip to the county tomorrow. Sixth grandfather's house was not far from the village chief's house. He was already 78 years old. In this era, there were very few people with a high lifespan. Everyone said that sixth great-grandfather was blessed and that his children were filial. Now, he was also respected in the village. Sixth grandfather knew that it was inconvenient for them to live in someone else's house now, so they were in a hurry to move into the new house. Therefore, when choosing a date, he tried his best to choose the nearest one. Gu Yundong took the date and thanked him. She left a bag of soft pastries for Sixth Master before leaving happily. Unexpectedly, as soon as she went out, she saw Madame Fang and her daughter walking home. Beside them was Madame Zhou, whose expression was very ugly. Gu Yundong had sharp ears and eyes. She could vaguely hear Madame Zhou's dissatisfied voice. "It's not like we don't have vegetables at home. Even if you want to eat wild vegetables, you can go alone. Why do you have to surround the foot of the mountain all day? Your chickens have all run out, and the pigs are so hungry that they keep crying. Why? Don't you want to live a good life? Gu Yundong suppressed his laughter and strode back. Unexpectedly, she heard Lu Wei's exaggerated voice the moment she reached the Xing family's door. Madame Fang and her daughter were too lucky. They had just left, but Shao Qingyuan and Lu Wei were already back. Chapter 125. Inquiring about something. Gu Yundong could not help but quicken his pace. The Xing family's door opened, revealing Madame Dong's anxious expression. Yundong, you're back? What happened? Madame Dong sighed. Qingyuan was injured. I'll bring him some medicine. Injured? Gu Yundong turned around and followed Madame Dong into Shao Qingyuan's house. As soon as she entered, Gu Yundong could not help but widen her eyes and gasp. It seemed like they had gained a lot in the mountains these past few days. Not only were there wild chickens and rabbits in the courtyard, but there were also 2 silly roe deers and a tiger. They had really caught a tiger. Could Shao Qingyuan have been seriously injured by such a big tiger? Gu Yundong retracted his gaze and hurried into the inner room. Auntie, if he's injured, you should find a doctor. She stopped mid-sentence and met Shao Qingyuan's clear eyes. After not seeing each other for a few days, Shao Qingyuan seemed to have lost a lot of weight. His clothes were tattered and he looked a little disheveled. However, his eyes were still as bright as before. No, it felt more aggressive than before. Aggressive. Gu Yundong blinked. When she looked again, Shao Qingyuan's eyes had become cold and indifferent again. Had she seen wrongly just now? Before she had time to think about it, Lu Wei's chattering voice had already sounded. I also asked him to see a doctor. I know Dr. Zhou from the county city's Anren clinic. He's skilled in medicine and will definitely be able to heal you. Don't force yourself. I know it's my fault this time. If it weren't for saving me, you wouldn't have been injured. I promise that next time, 111 obediently stay on the tree and won't come down again. There won't be a next time. Shao Qingyuan glanced at him. Lu Wei choked for a moment and waved his hand after a while. We'll talk about this later. Let's go see a doctor first. It's just a small injury. There's no need. Only then did Gu Yundong see clearly where Shao Qingyuan was injured. There was blood on his shoulder, but fortunately, it did not look very deep. Looking at him standing there in high spirits, his life was definitely not in danger. Gu Yundong heaved a sigh of relief. Shao Qingyuan glanced at her discreetly and smiled. He said to Lu Wei, go boil water. 111 Go back to my room to apply the medicine. This wasn't the first time Shao Qingyuan had been injured. His family had prepared trauma medicine. The medicine that Madame Dong had brought was for Jianghu. It was useless to him. Seeing that he couldn't persuade him, Lu Wei felt a little vexed and guilty. He sighed and shouted at Luan, have you boiled the hot water? Your young master stinks. Gu Yundong had wanted to walk to his side and ask about the situation when they entered the mountain, but she immediately took a step back when she heard this. Lu Wei, you're too obvious, aren't you? You actually dare to despise my peerless handsomeness? He snorted and deliberately walked towards Gu Yundong. Gu Yundong picked up a stick and pointed it at him. Stop, stop. Talk from this distance. Lu Wei was so angry that his nose was crooked. Fortunately, Luan ran over at this moment to let him take a shower. Seeing this, Gu Yundong returned to the Xing family with Dong Xiulan. When they were done packing, Gu Yundong came over. Shao Qingyuan was still wearing the same tattered coat. Gu Yundong frowned. He and Lu Wei were both eating porridge while Luan was preparing the horse. It seemed like they would be leaving soon. Gu Yundong immediately sat at the side and asked Lu Wei, want to ask you something. Although Brother Qin might not remember him, he was definitely going to call him Brother Qin. Since he's the top scholar, shouldn't he be an official in the capital? Young Master Liu, are you sending the roe deers to the capital? Liu Wei shook his head. He's not an official in the capital. He's in Fengkai County now. In Fengkai County? What for? Liu Wei stopped halfway and snorted again. Why are you asking so many questions? Anyway, it has nothing to do with you. By the way, didn't you say that you wanted to ask me about something? What is it? Ask me. I'll tell you what one know. Gu Yundong resisted the urge to roll her eyes. Are you a pig? Why do you keep snorting? However, seeing that it was getting late, Liu Wei and the others should be leaving in a while. Anyway, he was no longer as awkward as before. I want to ask about the school in the county. However, Liu Wei suddenly stood up and knocked over the stool behind him. Others didn't know the reason for his sudden resignation, but Liu Wei's family had connections. It was said that Qin Wenjing had met the crown prince, who was now the new emperor, before he resigned. No one knew what they had discussed. Liu Wei lowered his voice. Let me tell you, now that the new emperor has ascended the throne, a capable person like Brother Qin will probably be summoned back to the capital soon. Therefore, it's impossible for you to send your brother to study in his school. How can he still accept students at this juncture, right? Oh. Gu Yundong was enlightened. She looked as if he had a point. However, in the next moment, her voice changed and she asked with a smile, then why are you giving him the roe deer? Isn't it to enter his school? Chapter 128. Madame Fang wants to see young Master Liu Wei realized that this woman was not easy to deceive at all. She was too uncute. He sat back down angrily. I'm friends with him, aren't one? Seeing that he might be returning to the capital, I'm sending him some delicious food. Besides, I'm already so old. How can one enter his school? Gu Yundong nodded. Isn't that just nice? You have a relationship with him, and one have a relationship with you. Then do me a favor and talk to him nicely. How about he accept my brother as his student? Didn't I say that I know, but didn't you say that it's possible for him to return to the capital? It's just a possibility. You're not sure yet. Of course, even if he really wants to return to the capital, he used to be the top scholar in the examination. His knowledge must be very good. It's worth it for my brother to be his student for a day or a month, right? Liu Wei's eyes widened. F***ck, 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 F***ck. Could this woman read his mind? How did she say what he was thinking? Gu Yundong looked at him with a smile. Beside him, Shao Qingyuan tilted his shoulder, Liu Wei held his chest. Why was he so kind? If he was as heartless as Peng Zhongfei, he wouldn't have to care about this adulterous couple. After a moment of silence, he finally gritted his teeth fiercely. He lowered his head and muttered, what friendship? One don't have any friendship with Brother Qin. Otherwise, why would I send roe deer meat so that my brother can enter his family's school? Cough cough, Gu Yundong choked on her own saliva. Liu Wei flew into a rage out of humiliation. Why? Do you think it's so easy to enter his school? The young master of the county magistrate's family wanted to learn from him, but was rejected. He didn't give him any face at all, okay? Brother Qin has his own way of accepting students. It's not useful just because you're rich and powerful. It's also not based on talent and looks. It's not easy to enter, okay? Could it be that the roe deer meat? Gu Yundong guessed softly. You're smart. Gu Yundong was speechless. Why did she feel that this reason was even more unreliable? However, Liu Wei lowered his voice mysteriously and said, this is a secret that one deduced myself. I've asked someone to keep an eye on the Qin family for a long time. I realized that the servants of the Qin family often go to buy wild animals. Last time, Brother Qin took in a student because that student's father gave him a large piece of roe deer leg. I promised my father that I would definitely send my brother to his school. That's why one entered the mountains fearlessly. Do you think it's easy for me? So you're not allowed to snatch it from me. Gu Yundong felt that it was even more unreliable, especially when Lu Wei said that he had deduced it. The credibility was zero. When are you sending the roe deer to his house? In a minute, while it's fresh. Gu Yundong smiled. Bring me along. Not a chance. Gu Yundong analyzed for him. Look, you want to bring 2 roe deers and a tiger to the county city. Oh, and the few of you. That carriage will definitely not be enough. 111 lend mine to you. Besides, I guarantee that I won't say a word when I go. I'm just going to see the world and won't fight with you for the spot. Besides, one might be able to help you. Lu Wei frowned. Why did she sound so reasonable every time she spoke? That's fine. His stance could be said to be very unstable. Shao Qingyuan saw that they were done talking. Let's go then. As soon as she finished speaking, Dong Xiulan suddenly came over from next door. She looked at Lu Wei and said, Sister-in-law Fang is here. She wants to see young Master Lu. You're tuning in to the Carefree Valley YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.